gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the round 3 of the ERA Masters here at the beautiful circuit of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, one of the oldest circuits in the world, 116 years, and was opened up in August as they've broke ground the month before, and in August 14th, they opened. 1909, they opened up the circuit for everyone to use. First as an oval, then they went and built it into a circuit as well. And can you believe it? We get to race around this magnificent circuit, also known as the Brickyard, home to the Indianapolis 500 and home to some of the best champions in the world. And we get to see the best champions in the world for a virtual side here tonight, the ERA Masters, and it's going to be an incredible one. A massive welcome to everyone. Absolutely wonderful to have you guys here, and looking forward to a spectacular race evening. We're looking forward to seeing some close dices, some close battles, and some close side-by-side moments, because everything is to play for right now. Being round 3, there's no drop rounds in this championship. And as it stands for our pro class, Christoph Peterson holds the lead with 59 points, with Rafa Souza sits with 53 points in second place. Johan Bego Krobler holds third place on 51 points. He's followed by Henry Platz in fourth, and Spitzer taking him to sixth. Moving a little bit further down, we move to our AM class. It's David Roth that currently holds the top of the board with 55 points. Isam Domingo in second with 48 points. Sebastian Luxon on 45, tied with Chris Wall on 45 points. And Lucas Collab, 10 points behind them, sits with 35 points. So as you can see, the championship is really close, and the drivers are going to really have to see what moves up and down through the order. And not to take away due to our ERA Masters, if you've never actually been part of it, well, this is the first year it's running. And 2, we've been for the last 2 rounds. It's been incredible. We went to Barcelona with GT3s and we had 60 minutes of fun. We went to Suzuka and we had a Porsche Cup 90 minutes race. And that turned to be a topsy-turvy that went and mixed up the championship a little bit more. Here in Indianapolis, we've got a 120-minute race in GT3s, maxed into 45 minutes. 3 pit stops are going to be done during the course of this race with a rain probability of 30%, but it is all to play for. And the drivers looking to score big, win big, and stay at the top. Well, it's now time to put your money where your mouth is, and drivers are already starting to head out onto the circuit. Let's quickly take a look. As we got Lucas Collett now out on track, trying to give it everything he's got early on, and hoping that he can get a solid charge in the AM class. He's got Dave Borschke, who leads out from the pro class, out there in the McLaren. Beautifully having a ton of fun. And to those out in the virtual grandstands, whether you're joining us live or in the future, happy holidays from ERA to you. And I hope that you're having a great one. And hopefully not taking all the Easter eggs, all those chocolate Easter eggs. Gotta save some. Gotta share it with us, you know. That's how it works. You've got taxes that need to be paid. Chocolate tax. That is the one. But absolutely wonderful to have you out here. Take a look over to our virtual grandstands. We got Ari Fenter going and saying, how's it? And it's good to see Ari going and having a bit of fun. Thank you very much, Ari. Lovely to have you here, and looking forward to seeing you hopefully on the track very soon. Jason Farmer out in third place, coming out from South Africa. The Griffin Sim Racing driver has got the bit between his teeth. So far, he's had a bit of a up and down relationship with sim racing this past month, and is looking to really go and pull out that Joker card and have a good run. Lewis Knight, who is our previous champion for the ERA Sunday Championship, season 17 in the gold class, now looking to move his way forward, and will be racing a little bit later. As you saw, season 18 sign-ups are open, and you can head down to the link below, go and sign up with us, and we look forward to seeing you out on the track, going and enjoying the racing with us. Daniel De Villiers A little bit further down, he's going on a great charge. Now, Daniel de Villiers has been a bit of an up and down moment. Round 2 did not quite play to how he wanted it to go. Was a big fan of the Porsche, but unfortunately the racing didn't quite end in his way. So he landed up with a few bits of damage, and that threw him down the championship. David Roth out in the Acura or the Honda NSX, depending on which side of the world you're being sold this vehicle. Absolutely amazing, and is out in 6th place at the moment, trying to just dial up that pace, seeing if it can get a little bit closer. Chris Wall, along with Rafa Sosa, Ulrich de Jager, Martin Spritzer, David Young, Henry Platt a little bit further down, Christoph Peterson, our champion, well, our 8-time champion, was going 9. Unfortunately, that was booted off by Ernest Limburgs of Riesen. Now he's trying to see if he can make it work in the Masters League. And Mahayath Musa rounds out our field. So at the moment, a 135.5 to beat, set by Ernest Limburgs. Jason Farmer sits in 2nd place, 0.5 of a second off him with a 136.0. Daniel de Villiers, 136.102. Why I specify that is because, well, they're running so close to one another. Dave Broschke holds 5th with a 136.190. Christoph Peterson up into 2nd place. So a couple of things that's a little bit different from our usual ERA Sunday Championships. Our AM and Pro class all qualify together. There is no split qualifying. It's get out there, do what you can, and really make it work for you. Don't get held up in the traffic, and see where exactly it's going to help you out. Now, the drivers are going to be giving it the absolute all, but they've got to be so careful trying to make their way around the circuit, because you can quite easily get caught up. As we jump on board with Christoph Peterson, who is absolutely nailing it right now down the gears. You can see how Indianapolis, the oval circuit itself is very tricky, and also with its odd camber tends to put pressure on the tires. The inside of the Roval does become its own little gambit where you have to try and deal with flat blind corners. You got to get your gearing right, your brake markers perfect, otherwise you are going to understeer off into oblivion. These drivers, knowing how critical it is tonight to ensure they maximize the pace, maximize their time, are going to be keeping a very close eye on what they need to do heading forward. Now down the straight they go, and Christoph Peterson, hopefully this is a better time than his top 5. Well, he moves up, and Christoph Peterson more than happy with that 135.9 as it stands, but still a lot of time to be had out on the track to see where exactly he can move forward. So Limburgs with a 135.517. Rafa fires back with a 135.660 in that Nissan GTR. The Predator going in, showing what he can do. The Apex Predator has been the Apex Predator to Ernest Limburgs and has been taking the fight to the rest, all the way out from Brazil, having a stellar drive out there, looking to really move forward. Out in the virtual grandstands, once again, a massive welcome to you all. Crazy Stunts, fantastic to see you back, supporting the Griffin Sim Racing team. Love the flag, by the way, nice and warm to have it. Ari supporting the team of Project Vapor. You're out finding it. Daniel de Villiers jumps up into 3rd place as Bago Krobler fires back with the Team Wolf colors into 2nd. But no one's been able to dethrone Ernest Limburgs. They've gotten close, but not enough. Who is going to have that last little bit of legs? With 7 minutes to go, Limburgs with a 135.5. Now, I do want to point out there's a couple of interesting factors coming here. We see Issam Domingo holds as an AM colored. He is not actually AM. Issam Domingo actually sits as a... No, he is an AM. Sorry about that one. He's qualified as an AM. So Issam Domingo, 2nd in the championship in the AM class, sits on 48 points, while he's got Sebastian Luxen on 45. David Roth holds first place with 55 points. And now looking on our timing table, you can see David Roth and Domingo. They're going to carry the fight over. They're going to see what they can do and push that a little bit more. Question is, who owes who a box of chocolates come the end of this race? It is going to be a tough one. This race alone is going to be a monster to deal with. Remember, to get part of the ERA Masters League of 2026, you're going to have to perform out in the championships. You have to be consistent. You have to pitch up to races. It's an invite only. So if you don't meet the criteria by your fellow peers, you are not allowed to race. This is a thank you, a nod to those who have gone and shown that extra mile to be part of the ERA, whether you're in server 1 or server 2. It allows drivers from both servers to come racing as champions and fight it out for physical trophies. You heard me right. A physical sim racing trophy will be handed out to our winners. Now, with the Indianapolis, we got 120 minutes with a max stint of 45 minutes. In other words, they have to keep going for 45 minutes, pit, then reset the clock. Any time after means that they lose out some points. Rafa Souza at the top of the board with Limburg's 0.09 behind. This Nissan GTR is on rails right now, and not going and slowing down. 135.120. Rafa is taking no prisoners here tonight. He wants a victory. He wants to move forward in the championship and does not want to be sitting down in second place. But it's going to be Limburgs who fires back 0.1 of a second. Bego Hrubler holds on for third place with Daniel De Villiers, and Christoph Peterson, who's trying to get the drive out of this car. This Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo has just not got the grip underneath him to work out what's going to be the big game plan here to really stand out above the rest. He's going to have to push the car to its limit, find that edge of grip, and hold onto it with dear life. David Bruschke rounds out our 6th place, and this is going to be an interesting run for David. The Cyber Racing team has been consistent, keeping in the mix, keeping in that top 10, and biding and waiting his time. So do not sleep on David at this point. He is on for a big run. David Roth and Essam Domingo are going to be absolutely hammering it down on one another. Essam going back a little bit in his liveries and giving a bit of blue and silver out there for the Project Vapor team, and showing off some old Project Vapor colors as well as a tribute to what himself and Mahath Musa have managed to accomplish. Jason Farmer down in 9th. Henry Platt rounds out in 10th place in the BMW. David Young and Mahath Musa continue to push on that a little bit harder. Martin Spritzer out in 13th. Lewis Knight, Lucas Collab, and Chris Wall, followed by Ulrich De Jager. The Griffin Sim Racing team a little bit further back in the pack, but is trying to close up the distance. The question is, can he make it work? Can he close up that distance? And can he get himself into the top 5? For Ulrich De Jager, he wants to stay within touch of the Pro-Am field, well, the Am field. At this stage of the game, he's sitting over a second off Chris Wall. So he needs to find the grip out there and see what's going to work with him. No drivers up on their time just as yet. A little bit for Ernest Limburgs. He's trying to knuckle down and get that 0.1 out of his system and get it down to a 135 flat or into the 134. The Fear the Bones driver not going to be giving up this battle just as yet for qualifying. With 2 minutes and 35 seconds to go, these drivers can push a whole lot more out on these Pirellis. We haven't got Michelins on them. We've learned from history what Michelins and Indianapolis can do to cars. Take back to circa in terms of Formula 1, where there was only, I think it was 9 cars or 5 cars that started. The rest going and throwing in the towel just because the tires wouldn't hold up for the extent. Well, for Limburg, so he's holding it all together. 0.1 up on his time. He manages to get across the line. No improvement to go and help him out as 0.012. It is so close. A 135.132 to Rafa's 135.120. Beggar Krobler sits with a 135.530. And why that is important, Christoph Peterson, 135.532. You can see how close these times are. Daniel De Villiers with a 135.615. David Broschke sits with a 135.622. And that is how tight the racing has become, how close the qualifying is, and it's not done as yet. This is qualifying for the drivers to really stamp it up, do everything they can to stay within the top as they look to become the first ever ERA Masters champion. And for 2026 being the debut season, this is the one you want to take. You want to be the very first to walk away with the trophy and be the very first that everyone will talk about. Doesn't matter what class you're in, pro or am, it's a final push that's needed as Mahath Musa goes late into the corner, 0.4 up on his time. He is absolutely hammering it out there, trying to see if it's going to work out in his favor. The temperature is beautiful here today. It's 25 degrees in the sun. The track is 33 degrees, so it's not too hot, not too cold, just right. And with Myers Bussa now up into 6th, showing exactly that was just right for him. But David Roth is not done yet. He leads out the Anfield. He's trying to open up the gap to SM Domingo. David Young a little bit further down the order. Ernest Limburgs goes and calls it quits. But has that become a problem as Rafa is going to be the final one to give a push? Rafa is going to try and close up that gap. 0.04. The Apex Predator is going to do everything he can. Arnie is not going to the chopper. It is going to be the Predator to fight it down to the very end. Limburgs may have a problem here. Rafa comes across the line, up into first place. A 134.9. First car to get into the 134s and goes and forces Limburgs to the outside line. Peterson into third place. Daniel De Villiers comes across the line. No improvement on his side. Beggar Krobler in 5th. No improvement on his. Mahath Musa now giving it a hard push. Out in 6th place. Trying to utilize Lewis Knight's toe in that Nissan GTR ahead of him. The big Nissan trying to pull him through. At the moment, both Mahath Musa and Lewis Knight are up on their times. They are trying everything they can to get it to the very end. Everyone else is matching their old times. Lewis Knight comes across, unable to improve. Mahath Musa does. He boots himself up into 4th place. He's going to be happy with that one. What a drive. Henry Platt, unfortunately, no improvement for the Moscow Motorsport machine, but he will be more than happy to start where he is. Folks, we are back, and as you saw, Season 18 of the ERA Sunday Championship coming up. on the 19th of April, you want to sign yourself up. You want to be part of one of the biggest ACC leagues in the world. And right here at ERA, free entry to go racing as well, to duke it out with some of the best in the world, get to learn a lot, and at the same time have fun but safe competitive racing here out in ERA. But let's take a look at the circuit. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, home of the Brickyard, and one of the oldest circuits in the world. It is an oval that's home to the Indy 500, but also landed up getting taken a little bit apart over the years to have an internal circuit as well. This has allowed the drivers to have a bit of fun with GT3 and Formula cars. 116 years old, 1909, the circuit opened up to the crowd and for drivers to go race. Year before, that's where they broke ground. That's where they worked on it. Originally all about dirt, but now has become synonymous in racing history. It's part of the triple crown that you want to have in the world of motorsport. 3.9 kilometers the drivers are going to have to compete with. 14 corners. It doesn't sound like much, but it's blind corners. It's flat. The only times you really got any change in undulation and in camber is when you're entering onto the oval, coming through turn 11, 12 into 13, and coming out of turn 15. You're getting onto the oval, allows that little bit of room, but thanks to Assetto Corsa Competizione, they have scanned the entire oval, so if you really want it during a practice session, send it around the oval. Why not? It's worth a little bit of fun. Also, fun fact, this track has a rallycross circuit and a 500-meter short oval layout as well, making it Indianapolis's home for motorsport. Dallara has done lots and lots of testing here, along with many other brands. Ligier has also put their cars to the test out in Indianapolis to see if it can work out for them. However, it comes down to this. Round 3 of the ERA Masters. And that is what we're looking at, folks, because this is about to get very, very wild. So at the sharp end of the field, as the drivers start to get themselves going, we have got Rafa Sousa, who will be at the sharp end of the field. The Brazilian not wanting to be caught out with the Apex Predator livery, that Nissan GTR. Plenty power underfoot. Will have to compete with Ernest Limburgs, who follows suit in the Honda NSX GT3 and will be looking to move forward. A 4-cylinder twin-turbo that is looking to charge their way up to the front. And ironically enough, the twin-turbo also being utilized on the new Lamborghini GT3 as well, which is a V8 twin-turbo. But that is your front row. Let's take a step back. Christoph Peterson will be behind his friend Rafa and seeing what he can do. He currently holds third place in that AMG GT3 and will be trying to get the run. Mahith Musa, the South African, in the BMW Project Vapor colors, will be trying to take the fight to the sharp end, knowing the pressure that's on the back of it. Daniel De Villiers in the Pennzoil PWSR colors in that Nissan GTR will be wanting to really take the fight to the sharp end of the field. It's not going to be an easy one, especially knowing the competitors ahead of him. David Borschke a little bit further back. The Cyber Racing, told you, don't count him out as yet. Just out of the top 5. The 701 is looking to stay in for the fight and seeing where it's all going to go. Bego Frobler in the Team Wolf colors. Mustang will be charging his way through one of the newest cars to the ACC grid and was the second that came out in 2024, if I remember correctly. Only the new Lambo makes it the newest car in the field. So Bego Frobler holds the youngest of the field out here. David Roth in the Honda NSX will be looking to put the power down and fear the bones, along with Isam Domingo a little bit further back in the BMW. Project Vapor Colors holding 9th position. Jason Farmer will be chasing him down and looking to move forward up through the pack. David Young, followed by Henry Platt in 12th. In the Moscow Motorsport Colors, Martin Spritzer a little bit down in 13th with Lewis Knight, your defending gold driver for season 17, will be moving up to platinum. He's got Chris Wall next to him, Lucas Kolb, Ulrich Diaga, and Andre Sorodio, who was a latecomer, now starts from pit lane. So Sorodio joining in lastminute.com. We'll see the drivers lining up 70 kilometers now. Lights on, lights on, lights on. 2 hours of racing. Who's going to get the jump? As we green, heading down into T1. Rafa trying to pull away as quick as he can. Limburg's cutting off the nose of Christoph Peterson as it looks like Mahath Musa in a fight with Daniel de Villiers into turn 1. Rafa down to 2nd, and it looks like he's about to get mugged down to 3rd as Christoph takes the inside line. Rafa getting a poor start and now loses out that drive. Daniel de Villiers leans on Christoph Peterson, just trying to see if he can make his way through the Masters, showing what they can do with some great side-by-side battles on the way through. Does look like the Moscow Motorsport, Henry Platt down the order as everyone just trying to filter their way, trying to figure out what can be the drive, as Jason Farmer trying to move his way up through the order. This is Dave Broski with Isam Domingo down the inside. Look to try and get the pass done and just gets it. Oh, a big problem comes in for Martin Spritzer. Turned around, the track tool team now at the back of the field as here comes Chris Wall to overtake him. Martin Spritzer getting turned around right at the last. Let's see if we can quickly go to our heady cam and get a bit of an understanding of what happened to Martin Spritzer. So the Bosch colored BMW sees Project Vapor ahead, goes late on the anchors, tries to send through. Oh, was just contact from the rear from David Roth that turned him right the way around, unfortunately putting him a little bit further down into this race, and now having to try and claw his way back towards the sharp end of the field as they carry their way through. Lucas Kolb trying to move forward as he keeps pressure on Lewis Knight. Jan Beger-Krubler looks down the inside to get the pass done and dusted over the likes of Kolb. And now the Mustang sees Lewis Knight in front of him. Remember, we got 2 classes running here tonight. We have got our Pro and Am class that are racing. In white is our Pro class. In red is our Am class. And the drivers will need to consider their options. For those that have strained their tires early on, well, they're about to face that a little bit later into this race because they will need to pit. It's 2 hours worth of racing, the longest stints we have done thus far here in ERA, bar the Endurance Series. So this is the longest solo racing that drivers can go out and do. Now they're all looking to move forward. Beger-Krubler keeping the pressure, and you can see on and off the brakes, on and off, trying to get that little bit of a rear rotation underneath him to move forward to Lewis Knight. However, just not having enough of a run there, will be considering his options on what he needs to do to try and get that pass done and dusted as they fight their way on. Not an easy time out there. You can see the run out of the corner just a little bit in his favor as we jump to on board. Looking to the left, carries a lot of momentum onto the oval. 4th gear, 5th gear, watch out for the braking marker heading into turn 1. Is it gonna be enough though? Absolutely sends it down the inside. Can he stop it on the apex? He does, and he's able to close the door on Lewis Knight. Lewis Knight moving down to 12th. Bago up to 11th, and now looking to try and open up the gap. David Roth, who had that little bit of a touch and go up against Henry Platt, the Moscow Motorsport BMW, getting hunted down by the VTEC, the Honda, going down the inside, and oh my heavens, David Roth really trying to make it stick. But Henry holds him back that little bit more, and now Jason Farmer gets into the mix with the Ferrari 296. David Roth down the inside yet again, trying to slow the car down. Oh, narrowly gets by, and that forced Henry Platt out wide. Jason Farmer says thank you very much. Smelling blood in the water, dived with, and unfortunately for Henry Platt, 2 places down right off the bat, and now needs to try and pick himself up off the floor here to carry on the momentum. David Roth not wanting to lose out to SM Domingo. Got caught off on the start a few times, and now is a little bit further back. He's got to catch up to David Broschke along with SM Domingo further up the field. Johan Bego Grobler up against Henry Platt. The 2 South Africans look to duke it out, but don't count out Lewis Knight a little bit further back, bringing Lucas Collett, David Young, Ulrich Diago, Chris Wall, Martin Spritzer in tow, as well as each of the drivers pulling themselves that little bit closer, trying to see where exactly they can stay in for the fight. This is where a race gets a bit interesting for our drivers, because we're here at Indy, because we talk about it a lot. It's the slipstream. Now, everyone knows you get in the slipstream, you get pulled along, you can take the dive and get past your competitor. Super quick, super easy, don't worry about it. But here's a little fun fact. For those that do IndyCar driving or NASCAR, or like to save a bit of fuel on the highway, keeping in the person's slipstream means that you are gaining the same speed as the driver, but you can lift off the throttle a little bit more. Less on the throttle, more fuel saved. Longer into the race you can go. That 0.1, 0.2 of a litre that you keep saving lap after lap does add up when it comes to a 2-hour race like this, where you really got to consider your options of how far are you willing to go. Where are you looking to make up time? So in a train, the first place car would be 100% throttle. Second place will be sitting at 90 to 95% throttle. Third will sit from 85 to 80% on throttle, and it goes further down depending on how close you are to the driver. So to be in the slipstream, this is gonna be a really big run for each of the drivers to move forward. Now, Jason Farmer is onto the back of Roth, who seemed to be quite aggressive at the start and losing that time to SM Domingo, and he doesn't want to lose out that time. Really hunting down those chocolate eggs at the moment, and it looks like SM Domingo's got a pocket full, and that is why David Roth is absolutely gunning for it. He wants that little chocolate bunny, that is for certain. But SM Domingo has to be aware, because right behind him, David Broschke of the Cyber Racing team is putting pressure on him. And for SM Domingo, he's looking into those mirrors. That's costing him a bit of time and allowing David to get a little bit closer, to stay clean and to focus on his race. The more that the drivers push, the more life they're taking out of their tires. And once they have to change tires, it's a little bit of a longer process, 30 plus seconds to get yourself with all 4 tires changed. Not to mention that this pit lane is notoriously long and awkward. To come into the pit lane, it's actually through this final sector. You go straight on, you can see the road just off in the camera shot. You go straight on, curve your way through, and 70 kilometers to the main pit lane. Once you're out, you're going to be coming out onto the racing line from competitors. So it's something you really don't want to have and you don't want to deal with, as you will land up in a world of hurt. Now, Martin Spritzer, we saw early on, have a bit of a problem with his car getting a little bit scooted out the way. There's no other way of saying it. He was scooted, and now we'll be looking behind as he's got Ulrich Diaga pushing to try and get past him, trying to figure out where exactly can he stay in for the mix. Ulrich Diaga has got Chris Wall, as we do find out Andre Sorodio into pit lane to get one of his stops done early on into this race. We haven't even been 9 minutes, so something has gone on with Ulrich, with the likes of Andre Sorodio's car. Chris Wall trying to go sleeves off at the moment out in the UK. Takes on the South African of Ulrich Diaga, who is just within arm's reach at the moment. The Aston Martin 2019 spec going after the much more modern car, the 2020 M4 GT3. Gets a dive on the inside. Both cars very suitable for new drivers to get the hang of it and move forward. For Ulrich Diaga, it was an easy let go, and now just have to keep in the tow. Just pull yourself along. Don't worry about it at the moment, and it's gonna be a big race. This is a race, unfortunately, we saw a couple of drivers not able to participate due to the holidays and watching from the grandstands. And happy holidays to you all from ERA, and welcome to the ERA Masters League, the first ever for the ERA Masters, and drivers doing everything they can, showing off some great driving. Isam Domingo and David Roshki keep the pressure on one another. No one able to get that little bit more of a run. David doing everything he can to close up to the likes of Isam Domingo as we jump onto the nose of the car. Take a look at the difference in cornering. A little bit of understeer coming in with the McLaren as he's pushing it deep into the corners, feathering the throttle through. You gotta be gentle as you get flying down this main straight. The next corner coming up, a sharp left-hander, is so difficult to get right because you've got to watch your brake marker, hook it in at the right time. Too late and you're off into the weeds. Too early, you kill your drive through this section, and you can see how critical it is for David Roshki to feather the throttle through on a car that wants to understeer at the moment. Naturally, the McLaren has a lot of oversteer to it, but it seems like this time around is having a lot less of fun with it and trying to go that little bit further. So absolutely great drivers moving out and seeing what they can, but right behind them, David Roth and Jason Farmer are closing up the gap. So you can't get too comfortable. You can't go and wait that little bit longer. You need to figure out when you're getting past, pulling the trigger. If not, somehow tell the driver ahead of you, we're running times, we're happy, and let's keep cycling. Let's keep going and try and stretch the tank. For anyone that's behind, well, it's absolutely perfect. Stick behind the car, keep chasing, and don't worry about the lap times. Just focus on saving that little bit of fuel that will help you out in the race. If you do fuel calculations out in these cars, you'll always sit between 2 to 3 pit stops, or you'll sit with a 2.5 or a 2.6 or a 2.3, an arbitrary amount of pit stops that you may need during the race. So 2 full pit stops or a 2 full pit stops and a splash and dash. If you keep in the chase, you can start to go and save that little bit of fuel. See where exactly it helps you and how far you're willing to go in it. But to maximize the slipstream here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, you have to be within a second of the driver ahead of you for that slipstream to work. If you're below that, forget it. You're back to driving normal. So you need to be right on the tailpipe, like what Jason Farmer's doing to David Roth at the moment. The two of them not moving off a racing line, keeping each other rather busy. Beggar Kroble now trying to close up the gap to them. And unfortunately, David Roth going and snapping that toe quite early on, coming onto the oval, and it gets away from the likes of Jason Farmer. David Roshki just up ahead as our driver's still running line astern. And now it doesn't seem like much is happening. But in the pits, in the cockpit, many of these drivers are starting to run through the calculations in their head. What are they needing to do to stay at the top? David Young for the Delta 1 Racing, very late into turn 1. You can see how much it compromised him as he was trying to get past Lucas Kolob at the moment, who is lying 4th in the AM category. And further up, Lewis 9 holds 3rd in the AM category. David Young was a bit enthusiastic, got that stellar drive out, but unfortunately, being in the slipstream, had to find the braking marker a little bit later. These drivers are also on a circuit that is wonderful for a straight line, as David Young, first big mistake, Big impact into the wall. That Ferrari, unfortunately, going and taking a bit of hurt. He's trying to get it turned around. Luke's going to be more than happy on that one. Mon Spritzer, Chris Wall, Ulrich de Jager all come piling their way through. David Young with damage to the nose now. We'll have to try and bring it back. He kept going a little bit close to the fringe of the circuit and unfortunately got caught out and thrown into the weeds. And now we'll have to think back on what needs to do on the way through. So absolutely tremendous stuff. And what a dramatic race. Gotta say, I mean, this has been an absolute great race nonetheless. And honestly, I've got to say that we've got some top tier talent and around the world, people tuning in from all over. Antonio Gamble being one of them from South Africa. We got Chantel going and having happy holidays and happy spring break. We have got Ari going and saying how's it. We've got Daniel all the way out from Germany going and watching the racing. He's looking forward to meeting some of the drivers out in May for the Nordschleife 24. Rafa Sosa and Christoph Peterson keeping the pressure on one another. Now, Rafa did start out in the lead, but unfortunately couldn't hold out at the start. And now relegated to second, looking possibly to get relegated down to third as Peterson has got the drive. He has got that little bit of a push and is starting to make it work out in his favor. Peterson was quicker than Rafa on that previous lap. 135.8 for Rafa. Christoph with 135.7, but untouched. Ernest Lindberg sits with a 135.6. Best lap time, 135.3 on a full tank. So he is trying to stretch that lead open a little bit further. See how they can maximize the points, where exactly they can move forward. Matthias Musia and Daniel de Villiers could see in shot right behind them. Issam Domingo leads a monster of a train at the moment with David Broschke, David Roth, Jason Farmer, Begor Krubler, all trying to move forward. And at the moment, David Broschke, who holds on in that McLaren, looks to utilize the rotation underneath the car to get him in and out through the corners and close up to Issam Domingo, who's battling out there. Domingo has been playing between two sims at the moment, LMU and ACC, and has openly said needing to go and get your mind set up for ACC. The way the braking system works is very different, and now trying to figure out what can he do to try and make it work out for him. He's got David Roth, Jason Farmer, Bego Krubler all sitting in tow. They'll be waiting, biding their time. And the one that's saving the most fuel out of the entire train that we got on screen is this man, Johan Bego Krubler. He just has to sit, wait, save that bit of fuel. If he can go that extra lap longer, that's going to be a good run for him. David Roth, however, has got a bit of pressure from Farmer, lurking around the outside. Couldn't quite get the pace onto the oval, but has definitely closed down that gap to David Roth, ensuring he can keep that pressure on no matter what at this stage of the game. Looking left, looking right, trying to lean in, seeing where exactly can Roth be a little bit weaker. But at the moment, Domingo holds up the train, much to the delight of Matthias Musa, who's got Daniel de Villiers, the only car he needs to contend with, going and keeping him at bay. This is where that communication is possibly key to go and move you up through the race. That little bit of, let's work together, keep our head focused and keep going. For anyone that has ever seen the world of go-karting, or might actually go and see it in the world of single-seater racing, maybe a little bit in turn tops, but not too often, you'll watch them tap their helmet, or they'll show their hand where it's straight, that they're using the length of the hand instead of the width. Say, instead of stop, you turn your hand to the side, and it's just a movement back and forth saying go, go, go. That is a way to say keep going, don't worry about it. That's race. Let's rather pull each other along. What these drivers wish they could be doing is exactly that. don't worry about me. Let's just focus. Let's close this train up ahead. And let's try and see if we can get up to SM Domingo and Daniel de Villiers further up the road. And let's see if we can also try and close the gap to our top three, Limburg, Sosa, and Peterson, who continue to open up a hectic gap over the rest of the field. Now, this is one of the closest battles out on track, running line astern. You can see the pressure starting to come in. Domingo altering his lines, creating a snake at the moment with the left to right, trying to see if he can break that run to David behind him. David Roth, however, third in the train, is not wanting to yield. He closes up the gap under braking and see how they can move forward. I mean, this is one heck of a run for each of the drivers, and all looking to maximize their points. For Domingo, it is crucial to keep ahead of David Roth, who currently holds the top of the AM Championship at the moment. And with David Broschke sitting in the middle, sitting as that wedge to try and move David Roth a little bit back, that means he's got a little bit of playroom at the moment, and we'll be hoping that likes of David Broschke can keep Roth at bay, the best of his ability for Domingo to get the run. However, David Roth and Broschke not fighting against one another, they're working with one another. Jason Farmer and Bego Krobler leaning on each other a little bit more. One saying Omar's Vos, the other one saying Kwai Vos, going and finding out which of the best of the Boerewors out there and having a good one. I don't know my huge Bry terms, so I do apologize to all the Bry fans out there, or the barbecue fans if you're out in the rest of the world. At the moment, David Broschke, David Roth trying to keep going, and look at SM Domingo right out the corner, chose to go right to the wall instead. That actually scrubbed time from him, and it was David Broschke and David Roth that were a bit confused, so they followed the train back in to see if they can keep it going. However, that simple move has cost Domingo 0.1 of a second and has allowed the drivers to now get into the factory. So this is now not a very good run for him as we jump on board. Oh man, late on the brakes and really had to send it through. Couldn't quite get the pass as David Broschke, as we jump on board with the McLaren 720S Evo, pushing harder and harder at this stage of the game, giving it everything he's got. Can you hear that engine screaming to high heaven, trying to get closer to SM Domingo? That straight six turbocharged BMW now looking to take on a naturally aspirated, oh, David Broschke all over the curbs, but a need coming through, and that is going to cost him a bit of time out there for David Roth to start hunting him down. Blood is in the water. There is an option to move forward. The question is, can he take it? Farmer having a bit of problems as he looks down the inside. Oh, it's contact between the two. Farmer has contact with Roth, and unfortunately, Johan Bego Krobler, nowhere to go, slots himself in between, trying to see if he can move up through the order, but he had to slam on the anchors there, seeing a total roadblock ahead of him. Not an easy run, and that goes and causes a more concertina effect. Jason Farmer is sick of waiting, sick of going, and now losing out to Johan Bego Krobler down the inside, running into a bit of contact again, and that has helped Johan Bego Krobler up a position, but Jason Farmer being the first one to get frustrated and loses out the drive. Now David Broschke trying to dive down the inside, couldn't quite get it done on SM Domingo, but is still having a great bit of fun. And it's wonderful to see the drivers pushing that little bit more. Now, for anyone that's out in the ERA Discord or wanting to know, we have got a few fun things happening other than Season 18 that's coming up. We've also done a bit of a test race with LMU. Yes, you heard us right. We put a little bit of a test of LMU and AC Evo to possibly be contenders to join up here on the ERA season. So if you're wanting to see how things go, best join up with the ERA Masters. Hit the subscribe button along with the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the incredible news coming up. And if you're wanting to be a part of the different championships and have your say, well, what better way to do it than come in and join our league. At the moment, Mahath Musa breaking away from Daniel de Villiers, but only just at this stage of the game as they fight out for 4th and 5th position. Mahath Musa getting word, but take a look. Jason Farmer deciding to get into pit lane. This is an interesting call. Felt that he was slowed up by the rest of the field and dives into pit lane. Was that the right call though, to go and get the run through the field? Maybe that shorter stop, trying to get away from it. Also knowing the fight that he was in. David Roth onto the back of Porsche. Domingo still leads out the train. Bego Krobler holds on to 9th place as it's been a fight from 6th to 10th. Well, we now got 6th to 9th position. And at the moment, Jason Farmer dropping down to 17th. Andre Sorodio will be the only car behind him who is a lap down on the field. Now, there's no mandatory amount pit stops here for this race other than a 45-minute stint limit you're allowed to go on, and then you reset the counter by going into the pits. So that is your only call. You don't have to pit just once or just twice. It's now down to time. How much time do you have available to go that little bit longer? Or when do you wish to reset the counter? Domingo close to the wall again. David Borski, David Roth, and Bego Krobler close up on the back of him. Henry Platt also starting to find a bit of time, just going and pushing that little bit more. The pit lane is going to become rather busy rather shortly, and I do think for the likes of Jason Farmer and David Young, they opted to go in earlier to try and avoid the mad rush into this very long and tedious pit lane that can absolutely put a dent in your race. Domingo, David Borski, Roth, and Krobler. You could swear this is a fight out for first place. This is the closest fight we have on circuit, and it's a 4-car train at the moment where no one is getting the upper hand. Domingo is using every fringe of the circuit. He bought this DLC on ACC, and he's going to use every inch of the circuit that has been bought for ACC. Curb and all, as he tries to keep ahead of David Borski right here at the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway for round 3 of the ERA Masters League. They came from Porsches last weekend at Suzuka, and Bego Krobler missing his braking marker, nearly going straight on, and that would have been a big problem for the Mustang. Now he snapped out of the toe with a critical mistake, having to try and fight his way back up into it. He was so close, but overzealous into the braking zone, and that fouled him up in a heartbeat. Now the drivers have to think about the critical moments as they go through. Quickly running through who sits where. It's Ernest Limburgs who currently leads out the entirety of the field and the pro class, with Rafa Sosa in second. Christoph Peterson holds on to third and continues to battle it out. He's got Jason Farmer behind him, a lap down, who will not be putting any pressure on him. Mahath Musa and Daniel de Villiers still finding out 4th and 5th position. Issam Domingo leading out the AM class is fighting against David Borski, who holds on to 7th overall at the moment, and as a pro driver is getting frustrated trying to look for every moment to get past. David Roth, 2nd in the AM class, is ahead of Bego Krobler, who holds 9th overall. Henry Platt a little bit further down, 10th overall in that BMW. Lewis Knight, Lucas Collab round out 3rd and 4th in the AM class, and Lewis Knight just managing to power his way from this BMW. The ultra super Latero braking of Lucas Collab right now is having a great time. Martin Spritzer for the Track Tool team, getting a bit of words of wisdom in his ear and hoping that it can carry him through. Chris Wall pushing a little bit further back, trying to make up some time, 14th overall, along with Ulrich de Jager and David Young, who are running ahead. Jason Farmer, unfortunately, a lap down, still holds on to third place. Christoph Peterson, and is just using him for tow. And rounding out the field, a car that started last, and for the first time ever, Andre Sorodio taking the Honda NSX GT3 car. And I kid you not, this is a huge departure for him, because he usually runs front engine cars like the BMW. Now jumping into an NSX, which is completely different in its driving characteristics, trying to see if that works out for him versus the rest of the pack. Unfortunately, coming in a little bit late means that he's not going to be moving up through the order, but by finishing, he will score some points to help him out in the championship, and also can provide a little bit of support as Issam Domingo has caught up to Mahath Musa. Mahath Musa made a mistake and now has got a world of trouble around him. The two Project Vapors going and seeing what they can do. This is a big moment coming in for the McLaren driver. David runs off circuit, barrels off at a rate of knots, rejoins, has the field come through. David Roth says thank you very much. David Borski, however, now has Johan Bego-Krobler, who's got the drive, snaps around the outside. Big moment coming in for Borski there, and a big fall off as well. Let's try and take a look at what happened. Oh, just got closed off and had nowhere to go. Ran off into the dirt, and that compromised his drive. A huge jump onto the dirt. Beautiful rejoin and back to the field. Unfortunately, tried to close the door off, but Johan Bego-Krobler got the run on him, closed right up, snapped to the left-hand side, and looked to follow the train through. So David Borski not having the easiest time out there, loses out to the Mustang of Johan Bego-Krobler, who puts pressure on David Roth. So a big moment coming in for Mahath Musa, and that was against Christoph Peterson and not Christoph, Daniel de Villiers as they come through. Christoph in fourth place. Interesting enough. So whatever's gone on to change it, we unfortunately can't pull the replay, but Daniel de Villiers up into third, Peterson into fourth, but one car missing out of that pack is a blue flag car. Jason Farmer, who was right on the back of those two, now looks ahead and he sees Rafa and Limburg's closing up. So a big moment must have come from de Villiers and Peterson that impacted Mahath Musa. Bego-Krobler diving into pit lane, deciding he's out of this fight for now and will be leading the rest of the field to duke it out. The two Project Vapors, Mahath Musa and Issam Domingo, will be in communication to deal with David Roth and David Borski at the moment. The Cyber Racing team, for many that don't know, is a long-standing ACC team that has been around here in ERA in many, many different forms. Unfortunately, as time's gone on, they've faded a little bit off, but the Cyber Racing team still supports each other despite the different sims that they are in. David Roth for the Fear the Bones driver, trying to get the momentum at the moment. Holds on to second in class, but Domingo just within arm's reach of him, trying to see what exactly can be done. How can he grab that rear wing and pull himself a little bit closer, seeing if he can just make it work. What can he do to get the upper hand? But with 45 minutes stint time getting close to an end, Bego-Krobler dived into the pits. Farmer's already gone through the pits. David Young was the first to get into the pit lane, with Sorodio unfortunately starting from pit lane and not having the best of luck. Now drivers are into the critical moments to see who's going first into the box and who's going to try go that one lap further, as we do see David Porsche dive into the pit lane in the McLaren. Shot pass in the background. He is getting himself sorted, leaving these two to fight it out with a 45-minute stint length. Well, folks, this is where timing becomes crucial. This is where it can either work for you or it can fall out for you. You can get penalized on it. Martin Spritzer up against Lucas Collip a little bit further up, and Spritzer not having an easy time at the moment after that rear contact and spin he had, which took a lot of life out of the tires. He's now trying to figure out what can he do to close up the gap. 1 hour and 25 minutes remain of this race. It's a 2-hour race for round 3 of the ERA Masters, and it's all about running the points, seeing what's going to happen and where they're going to move forward. That being said, Ari Fenter giving a little bit of information. Farmer doing the undercut, pitting earlier, might get ahead of the Issam train, but that is depending if he can keep up that momentum. At the moment, David Roth and Domingo are putting in great times with one another and chasing, but they're not actively attacking one another. They're hoping to pull that little bit closer to Mahayath Musa, see where they can stack up into it. Now David Roth is right on the back of Domingo, but they are getting close to their stint time, and both drivers, yet again, going to go that extra lap. David Roth trying to look around the outside, couldn't quite get the drive there, keeping very tucked in underneath the rear wing of Project Vapor, reading off every bit of thing. I think David Roth could read the serial number part off that rear wing. That's how close he was to Issam Domingo. Got a little bit unsteady into turn 1 due to outbraking, hooking the curb, going and bottoming out the car, and now needs to continue that little bit forward. Needs to think, right, what's the game plan here? What am I going to do to go and get ahead of Domingo or to get ahead of Lewis Knight, who is only sitting in 9th position? Henry Platt separates the two of them, but that can quickly change depending on strategies. And it looks like majority of the drivers are opting to go right down to the wire of that 45-minute stint timer, get in the box, get it sorted, and carry on, not wanting to go for the undercuts on it. And this means that drivers have to think critically of what they want to do. Now, stint timer is a little bit different to what we usually have. We usually have a mandatory pit stop with a pit window. And that means you've got to get one stop done between X time and X time. However, with a stint timer, this means that the drivers are only allowed to spend a maximum of 45 minutes in the car. Once you get into the box, it resets that timer. And by pushing that a little bit harder, you may or may not have calculated it correctly, and it can compromise a bit of time, as we do see Issam Domingo this time around not going for a hard inside line. He is opting to run a little bit further out and just biding his time, keeping towards the racing line as David Roth piles in that pressure more and more, trying to see where exactly can he gain that little bit of time. Honda looking rather twitchy on the steering, constant correction happening out there, and that car built for straight line, but when it comes to cornering, seems to be fighting with the driver, and that is costing him time right now, as they both thinking what can be done, how can they move forward, and to really go that extra mile. Now, I do want to point out we do have a very special guest. I'm not going to bring him up into the commentary box, but it's wonderful to have him out here, and it's a teammate to Project Vapor, Rich Van Heed, going and saying how's it, and watching in on his team to see how they perform out there. Richard coming off a bit of a rollover in his race car that hasn't deterred him from racing, but his wife telling he needs him to heal a little bit has most certainly put a little bit of a wet sponge on that idea. But Domingo looking to do him proud along with Myers Musa. Domingo currently leading out the AM class with David Roth in second place. Piling that pressure on, trying to see what's going to work out here at Indianapolis, as yet again, they're going for another lap. They are pushing that little bit more. The question is, how far can they get it done, as Lucas Collin will be diving into pit lane. Chris Wall going and gaining a position at the moment, also going to stretch his legs. Now we're seeing drivers saying, listen, I'm not in for the run here. I don't want to go and cut it far too fine to land up with a penalty for exceeding my max stint time as per the regulations for this ERA Masters League Round 3. They've got to consider all the options of what's going to move them forward here. David Roth and Issam Domingo still keep pushing one another, and the problem is both drivers are concentrating on each other and not really on the race at hand. I took a look over to the Project Vapor Discord and looking at their streams as well. Beautiful to get them, wonderful to have the drivers streaming their different perspectives, but you also get a sense of what's happening in the cockpit. And these drivers starting to feel the pressure. They starting to feel to go that little bit longer and are starting to try and push that little bit more, forgetting the little nuance that sits there, that max timer that can hurt their race. Now for Limburg's Rafa, Sosa, Daniel De Villiers, Christoph Pearson, Mahath Musa running in the top 5, they're going to look of who's going to pull the trigger first on one another to see where they land up going. For Krobler, who's ahead of Jace Farmer, he's already gone through the pits. He's more than happy to sit there and has been gaining a bit of more traction. As we do see a big look for David Roth, couldn't quite get it done under braking. Did show his nose. Big mistake coming in for Domingo, sunk it in a little bit deep. Side by side they go, and it looks like Roth is going to try the inside line. Absolutely gunning it. The Honda down the inside. Can the VTEC kick in? And it does. David Roth managing to move up into first place in the AM class, was waiting, bided his time, pulled the trigger, was able to get it done with Domingo a little bit later on the brakes, costing him time. And now what is going to be the return? What is going to be happening? What is the reaction for Domingo? Is it going to keep on the charge, or is it going to be bail into the box? Get yourself sorted out. See where exactly you can get it done. But a big moment coming in to turn 2. Yes, Domingo trying to drive it out, doing everything he can. This is coming on and off the oval. Yet again, this is towards our final section. And our pit lane not too far ahead. And it looks like he's going to keep it tight. David Roth tried baiting him into the pit lane, running out a little bit wide, looking like he was going to go in, with Domingo committed to get the pass done. However, wasn't able to do it. David Young up into 16th position and now has the field passing him through again. Will be keeping close eye on who is where, and it's contact between Domingo and Roth. Roth unfortunately spun round. Domingo caught up in that one, and not exactly what both drivers wanted to have. And let's quickly go to Tim in the helicab. And yes, Tim has got wings. This is what has gone on for David Roth. Barreling down the corners, changes gears down, more than comfortable. And here comes the big BMW. Wham! Into the back, turning David Roth around. That will cause a little bit of damage to the car, but for Issam Domingo will be facing that same set of damage to the nose of his car. He tried waiting up a little bit for David Roth, but then saw Henry Platt catching up to him and immediately got onto the throttle, saying, well, I'm in trouble now, gotta go. Limburgs and Rafa Sosa pull into the pits. Daniel De Villiers into the pits. Our max stint length coming into play. Christoph Peterson going out. He believes he's got one lap more and won't be worrying about it. Maeth Musa dives into pit lane. Will Issam Domingo follow? No, he doesn't. Bit of a call coming in from the Project Vapor team. Keep him out. Henry Platt dives into the pits. David Roth pulls into the pits. Lewis Knight diving into pit lane. So there's a number of drivers opting. They're going to get themselves sorted out and see it through a little bit later. But Bego Krobler leads out the cars that have done their first 45-minute stop that is planned here. We're expecting roughly 3 45-minute stops to be done. Bego Krobler leads out that charge. We'll see the string of cars into the pits, and we'll hope to close it up. He's got Jason Farmer for company right behind. The two South Africans will be trying to leg it past the others, but also keep well enough on the times of who's going to move forward. But an interesting call with a number of drivers. Domingo out onto the track with Limburgs exiting pit lane ahead of the pack. So Limburgs is now the bar from that 45 minutes and now lies in third place. Rafa coming out of pit lane into turn 1. Had a stellar run. Daniel de Villiers trotting down. Mahiath Musa, Henry Platt, David Roth, all trying to make their way through. They're going to have Bego Krobler, Jason Farmer, and the likes of David Brodsky for the Cyber Racing closing up. A drive-through penalty coming in for Peterson and Domingo. Both drivers thought they could go that one lap further. They had that extra lap in the 45 minutes. Both Domingo and Peterson will have to serve their 45-minute stop and a drive-through as well. Domingo pulled a bit of a rabbit out of a hat. Unfortunately, pulled out the Joker card, which has absolutely slapped him down to size. Christoph Peterson as well thought he was that little bit quick, that he can go that little bit further, but exceeded that 45-minute stint timer and now suffers a drive-through penalty. So not only is he resetting the timer, you'll have to get back in for the next 3 laps to do his drive-through penalty. Peterson coming out has served his drive-through, and now we'll be seeing to get that 45-minute stop done. Domingo stopped in the box trying to redo his drive-through and compromising drives. You only do it once, they say, and so far Peterson, who comes out in second place behind Domingo, will need to do it behind Ernest Limburg's, apologies. We'll be seeing what he can do. Issam Domingo, oh my heavens, Ali is gonna be jumping through the roof on this one, because not only is Issam Domingo now got a stop-go 30-second penalty, but he has hemorrhaged times by going that little bit later. A stop-go 30 means that he's going to be in the pits for well over 1 minute and 40 seconds if he does a full tire change as well. I mean, this is just a nightmare case. From having a stellar race against David Roth, well, it's all gotten topsy-turvy. David Young of the Delta One Racing up against Ulrich Diaga. Looked down the inside, couldn't quite get that pass done, and dusted as these two battle out for 16th and 17th position. Now, with that being said, there's a couple of more news that's breaking news coming from the world of ERA, and one of them is actually the return of our endurance racing here at ERA, but we'll be racing in conjunction with a South African league called RaceFace.pro. So ERA stretching out that hand and saying, right, let's run endurance racing together and making it a world-class endurance. So wonderful to see ERA at RaceFace coming out with their endurance racing. Head over to SimGrid to go and sign up for that. Well over 6 hours of racing, including the mid-ram 570, which is a 9.5 hour race around Kyalami. We've got some tremendous news coming up. Plus season 18 starting on April 18th. You want to be a part of it. you want to sign up and be a part of the show. Peterson into the pits, Domingo into the pits. Both serving their 45-minute stop, and you can see from Peterson sitting in the top 5, he is now down the order as Lewis Knight for the Good Smile Racing team trying to send it down. Unfortunately, the Bosch colours is going to say no to that, and Lewis Knight sits behind Martin Spritzer that little bit more, that little bit longer, and saying, right, what do I need to do to make this work out in my favour? The Nissan GTR has got plenty power underfoot, but that understeer starting to rear its head more and more for the drivers as they hunt down every opportunity to stay ahead of the pack. I mean, this is just a huge run for our competitors, and every single one of them hoping to go that little bit further in the race, trying to see who can gain that little bit of time. Limburgs and Rafa Souza currently hold on to first and second, but take a look at the gap, 16.4 seconds separating him. Daniel De Villiers holds on to third, 16.1 seconds back. Now De Villiers doing everything he can to stay in the podium spots, to go and score great points, but he's got a lot of work ahead of him. The ongoing fight is between Pro and Amp. Lewis Knight and Martin Spritzer. These two have known each other to be on circuit more than once. They have crossed swords more than once. Martin naturally a little bit quicker, but it looks like Lewis Knight has dialed it up to 11 this time round and is closing the gap. Right behind them, they got David Roth and Chris Wall. They are trying to look their way through. Once again, Lucas Collin leads out the AM pack. Lewis Knight trying to get past Martin Spritzer at this stage of the game. We'll look in the rearview mirror and see the Fear the Bones driver, the Jolly Roger, on David Roth's car, trying to close up the distance and really stay in for the fight. David Roth in a little bit of a Blackbeard colours, having that silver, black, yellow in the Fear the Bones, trying to see what it can be right out there, and will be fighting it his way through compared to his teammates Ernest Lindbergs and the likes of Christoph Peterson. But we have got one car out of this race. We started with 18 and it looks like we've got one car out of the race, and who may that be? Trying to take a look. 17 cars currently out, and unfortunately I can't quite see who was the car that went and called it quits and having a bit of a rough time out there. So Martin Spritzer, Lewis Knight diving down the inside. Spritzer tries to defend around the outside. Lewis Knight gets a poor drive, and there's David Roth, instantly snatches up that second place. Round the outside of Lewis Knight, made it look easy and continues on his drive. So David Roth carried a lot of momentum through, and now onto the back of Martin Spritzer, with Lewis Knight trying to figure out where on earth did this Nissan come from? Where on earth did this Honda engine find the power to get round the Nissan GTR? Oh, late on the brakes, and Lewis Knight nearly giving a bit of a French kiss to the back of Martin Spritzer's BMW, but it is David Roth who gains a position and is up into the top 10, and now sets his sights firmly on Lucas Collin, running 6 seconds up the road. What a drive from Roth on a return. Now, a little bit further down the field, we got Andres Rodeo. He's got the Apex Predator himself, Rafa Souza, looking to come on by. He mines right off to the right-hand side, backs off the throttle, allows the Nissan GTR through. Great situational awareness, but I do want to touch on, you as a driver don't necessarily have to gap it off the racing line. You can focus on going that little bit longer and seeing how it all works. Now, you can hold the racing line, not defend against the fastest driver. You can lift into a corner, but that gives you a little bit more room to play with. That, in turn, can either work in your benefit or work against you. Blue flags is one of those things that you can either utilize to move it up through the field or not. You can allow the faster car to come through, they'll become the wrecking ball to charge their way through, or in the case of Andres Rodeo, keep on the back of the driver and pull yourself along. Issa Domingo into pit lane yet again. Christoph Peterson down to 16th, allows his teammate Ernest Lindbergs to get ahead. Now, this is a big moment in the championship because got to remember, Peterson currently holds the top spot with Rafa in second, and Jan Bego Krobler holds on to third. At the moment, Peterson is in a world of hurt and will be sliding down the championship. Henry Platt is on 35 points, but will be gaining a lot of points in this one. So Peterson, by the end of it, will be looking at sitting roughly P4, P5 in the championship. Not entirely what he wants, and with no drop round means that there's no room for him to move forward. He has to make things work now, here, tonight at Indianapolis. Otherwise, they gonna get caught out. Now, finding out a couple of drivers pushing as hard as they can. Issam Domingo still in pit lane, and it looks like Issam Domingo possibly out of this race. Yes, he is. So Domingo is out of the race. And what a blow for the Project Vapor team, who was out there in first place, going that extra mile, but took the gamble. Took that gamble to go for a later run. 45-minute clock hit. He was still out on the track, and that gave him a drive-through penalty, much like his teammate Andres Rodeo for track limits exceeded, gets a drive-through penalty. Is this for track limits, or is this for going exceeding the drive time? And I think this is it. He's exceeded the drive time. The same mistake that happened to Issam Domingo has now happened to Andres Rodeo, who pulls into the bits, will be serving his drive-through. But regardless of that, it has cost them a severe amount of time. And remember, they also had that stop-go 30-second dumped on as well, losing out a lot of run. So, I mean, that little bit of a harder push, that extra lap, that I think I can do this in a minute 35, and you land up with a minute 37, well, that knocks you down a peg. And that is why running with these times is so interesting, because the reliance comes to you and the stopwatch. And if you are not watching an eye, if you're not keeping an eye on it, if you're not listening to your in-game spotter that says 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left, you write that out of your mind, you will land up going over that mark. If you're not listening to anyone in the pits that's saying, hey, listen, you got to get in this lap. Unfortunately, facing the exact same problem. So in the fight, in the heat of the battle, this is the easiest way to take you out of the fight. And as our drivers have made their way through, a lot of drivers have avoided such cases by pitting that lap earlier, not running it right to the edge of the clock, and ensuring that they don't run into a bit of a problem. As we do see Mon Spritzer going out wide, Lewis Knight trying to come back at him. They got Chris Wall on the back and pushing as hard as they can, as each of the drivers doing that little bit more out there. Now, if the stint timer is not showing on their driver system, I am to be mistaken here, but that means not all the overlays are on in the car. They do have overlays that can be shown inside the car and be able to see what's happening out there. If you can't see it, it's worth going into the options menu and seeing if there's a possible thing that you can change. I know a lot of drivers tend to turn things off because they've got alternative overlays, third-party ones that help them out, and that might have just been that cross-sort effect. If you don't have a full HUD open, that unfortunately hides it away that little bit more. And that's something that many of the drivers, I think, have already been bitten by, as we do see Sorodio in the pits that little bit longer. It looks like they may keep that car in pit lane, calling it enough for tonight, leaving 16 cars to circulate at the moment. Peterson, Ulrich Diago trying to move up through the order as we do keep an eye on Lewis Knight and Chris Wall trying to fight out. The logistical nightmare racing against Good Smile Racing team, Monspritzer, the track tool team continue their fight out. Lucas Collin. Now this is a driver we haven't spoken much about in the AM class, but is snuck in to first place ahead of David Roth. Lucas Collin has gone that little bit into the race and seeing how far they can go and where is it going to work out for them. And Lucas, I've got to say, is one of the few drivers that hasn't done an easy run. Barcelona, he got 30 points, but Suzuka was flat out his worst, only scoring 5 points at the end of it, which puts him in P5 at the moment in the championship on 35 points, 10 points behind Chris Wall. But a victory here tonight will secure 32 points for coming in first place, and exactly what he needs to move up through the order and where exactly they can stand at the top. So with that being said, drivers are making their way through. This is all speculation, however, for stint timers and for everything. So for anyone out there that knows a little bit more than me, we'll leave it out towards the stewards, but I'm just putting my tinfoil hat on and giving a bit of an idea from what I can see here in the commentary box as the drivers continue to go and give it absolutely everything they got. Now we're into the calmer points of the drive, as we do see Chris Wall and Martin Spritzer proving me wrong, the two of them nose to tail. But now we're circulating. 59 minutes to go in this 2-hour race, and drivers will be considering about their short stops versus long stops. As we can see Chris Wall, contact with Martin into the wall. Martin touches the wall. It is ever so close. It was ever so close. Chris Wall put his nose in. Martin turned across it ever so slightly. That twisted him round. And Lewis Knight tried to capitalize on the moment. Looks for the undercut to clear his way through. But Chris Wall, that lightest of touch. Unfortunately, Martin Spritzer yet again facing the wrong direction in this race, and has now got to take all the hard work that he had earlier and fight his way back up through the top. Lewis Knight and Chris Wall are not backing down as we jump on board of the Nismo Nissan GTR, fighting their way through, trying to see where exactly can they get the drive. And this is one of the original Godzillas and the last of the GTRs that have been manufactured. The Nissan GTR has been closed off, last of the chassis sold, last of the builds have been done, and now this is one of the very few remaining cars out there in the world. Much like the VW Golf has been sent to the shadow realm and closed off for history, Nissan GTR being this one exactly the same, with the very few that are left racing in the world. Fortunate enough, we've got two racing with us here tonight, Daniel de Villiers and Lewis Knight, campaigning those cars, showing that history is not over and trying to move forward. Chris Wall, however, a little bit further up in the Aston Martin, trying to stay for the drive that little bit further. And the Aston Martin of Chris Wall utilizes a Mercedes built engine to go racing. So it's not a true Aston. It was a conjunction between Mercedes with a AMG V8 motor and Aston Martin, leaving the only true Aston Martin that you can drive in ACC. Now I specify that one for good reason. In ACC is the V12 Aston Martin. That is the last of the true Aston Martins, but is proven to be not the favorite and has become a monster to drive out on track, with very few going and campaigning that car with a V8, like what Chris Wall in the Logistical Nightmare Racing Machine out in third place in the AM class has a far better feel with it. Trying to push that a little bit harder, a little bit further back. David Young, you can see, started to catch up to these duo. as they move on. Martin Spritzer getting a little bit close to Ulrich de Jager. Try and see where he can get that pass done and dusted. A quick flash of light to Ulrich de Jager as he sends it down the inside. Ulrich going and mining out the way, and de Jager very, very gentlemanly opened the door, held it open, said, "On your way past, dear sir, don't worry about me." Closed the door afterwards, and now carries on his way. An interesting take there, but knowing that Martin Spritzer is in a pro class, not in an AM class, they're not fighting for class position. However, he can utilize the toe to bring him a bit closer. 55 minutes remain in this race, and the drivers having to think a little bit more outside the box as we get closer to the next round of pit stops. They're going to be happening. Remember, they reset the timer after 45 minutes. They'll have to reset the timer yet again to get going. Now, the drivers have seen penalties handed out to Christoph Peterson, Andre Sorodio, and to the likes of Issa Domingo. Too early on, those drivers landed up getting a penalty for exceeding their time from being in the box. Unfortunately, it's cost him a lot of pace. We're on lap 39 at the moment with our leader, Ernest Limburgs, out towards the sharp end of the field for the Fear of the Bones. Aren't in the 95. More than happy with his running. Rafa sits in second place, 5 seconds behind, trying to see where exactly can he go and grab that time. So he's part of the 3 Nissan GTRs. Apologies, 3 GTRs that are racing. I completely forgot about the Apex Predator, probably because if you put on the camo, it tends to go absolutely missing, and Arnie is not asking people to go to the chopper just as yet. But the Apex Predator is still hunting down its prey of Limburgs, the Fear the Bonus driver, with that Jolly Roger on the side, not backing down. PWSR's very own Daniel de Villiers holds on to 3rd place. This is a good run for him as he keeps ahead of Bego Krobler, who we saw just in shot with that Mustang. So, I mean, little by little, drivers have been moving forward now. We have been keeping a close eye on a couple of drivers out here. David Broschke losing our drive. His last lap was a 137.040. Jason Farmer, a 136.785. Closes up that gap, but even quicker to that, Mahath Musso, who sits 4 seconds behind them, did a 136.4. So the fastest of all 3 of them, and slowly but surely trying to chip away at that time, trying to bring himself out a little bit closer, see if it's going to work out for him during the course of this race. However, it's going to be a tough time out there as everyone looking to move forward. You can see behind Musso's car in great shot, having a stellar exit, stellar run. Still got the shine to the car. Don't need to bring out that Mr. Min and a bit of a wipe to the side of it just as yet. But with 53 minutes remaining in this race, it's still open cards across all classes. 41 laps in. Now, for any people that think that sim racing is easy to do, easy to carry on, well, let me go and chuck in this scenario for you. Each of these drivers will vary on what type of hardware they have. Most of the drivers will sit with like your Mazda R5s, which we talk about 5 Newton meters of torque, maximum output. For anyone that thinks that's not too bad, I want you to run a little bit of a scientific experiment at home. Fill up a bottle, a 1 liter bottle of water, close it up, and stretch your arm straight out. Now, with that being said, you'll feel a little bit of pain and cramping eventually starting to build up in your elbow and your bicep. You'll start to get a bit of a shake as well. These drivers will be experiencing that in the cars. Yes, they've set their sim rigs up as comfortable as possible with the bend in the elbow and sitting at 90 on both sides of the steering wheel. However, they are constantly fighting the forces on that steering, and that wears them out. It runs out a little bit further as we do see a couple of drivers considering their options to go a little bit further. Now, you got the bend in your elbows, you're trying to see what works out. The question comes in, who has got the stamina to keep going? They'll have that buildup of lactic acid starting to affect the arms, where they start getting tired. For those that grip the steering wheel, push and pull under braking and acceleration, twisting forces as well on the steering as they try to really keep going, they'll start to feel hand cramps as well. Think about fine needlework being that exact one. You're busy crocheting, knitting, or just going and threading a needle. That's what these drivers are going to start to feel, those cramps in their hands, and they've got to try and release and wiggle those fingers, get some feeling back in the hands before they keep on the charge. And on top of that, you do have a load cell pedal. Most drivers here run a load cell pedal, which is essentially a weight that they push. And depending on how much force they apply to the pedal, that registers how much force in braking it works. Now, load cell's the quickest way to get quicker in a car. However, it builds up muscle memory. Great stuff. Sounds like all pros, no cons. Not quite. Try and push against the wall over and over. Sit in a seat that is firm and is locked, and I want you to push against the wall straight out and bend your knees. Straight out and bend your knee. You'll feel the pressure in your calf. If you haven't got a wall, try squat down. Just hold yourself in a squat. You'll feel it in your calves. These are what the drivers will start to feel in their sim rigs as they build up that lactic acid. They build up that little bit of pressure onto the legs and arms, and drivers will be considering their options of what do they need to do to get more comfortable. Yes, we've designed different ergonomics and different ergonomics for people, but absolutely going to be one for the drivers to think about. Jason Farmer gets a drive-through penalty, and I think that is for exceeding track limits, or it's for drivers. And Jason Farmer, the first of those to get the DT in the second round, and that is going to absolutely collar the Griffin Sim Racing team, who was the first to pit, and now down the order, starting to feel that pressure and starting to feel, oh boy, I've got a problem here. This is not where I want to be with a drive-through penalty. With 48 minutes to go, that very, very long pit lane is going to make life a little bit more trying and takes him cleanly out of the top 5. So taking an earlier stop did help him out to an extent. Now the rest of the drivers, Limburg, Sosa, De Villiers, Krobler, David Borski, Mike Musa, Henry Platt, David Roth, Lucas Collett, Chris Wall, Lewis Knight, David Young, Martin Spritzer, Christoph Peterson, and Ulrich Diaga will be also considering their options. Do we dive in the pits now? Do we get this out of the way and see if that's going to help us out? For Farmer, he's keeping a solid push right now to get onto the back of David Borski. Question is he going to serve his drive-through? Not this time round. He's going to go that little bit longer. He's got 3 laps to serve it, as per the sim. But the question is, can he keep that momentum going? Can he push that a little bit more? Has he got enough in the tank? Behind him, Mahath Musa, who's 3 seconds adrift, but closing up that gap. And Henry Platt as well has been making a bit of headway. Now, we haven't spoken too much about Henry Platt at the moment, but he has slowly but surely been eating into the grip of Mahath Musa, as our pro drivers will start to feel a bit of a cold chill down their spine as they push a little bit harder, a little bit further into the time limits. 60 cars remain. Limburg's leads out the pro with Rafa Sosa and Daniel De Villiers in third. For our AMs, it's David Roth, Lucas Collop, and Chris Wall remaining out our top 3 in our AM class and pushing a little bit more. Once again, we are missing a few drivers due to the holidays. And once again, from the ERA family to everyone, we'd like to say happy holidays. And make sure if you've got some snacks for the holidays, please do keep some. Share it out. It's always, sharing is caring, especially when you've got that box of Easter eggs lying around, or maybe that chocolate bunny that's a little bit too big to fit in your suitcase. Now, that being said, drivers looking to maximize points. We now have to 46 minutes and 10 seconds. Who's going to be the first to pull the pit stops here? We know Farmer's got that drive-through, but he is not going in for it. He is constantly pushing harder and harder to catch up to David Borski, and just seeing what works out. A little bit of a weave, a wag, and a gone. And that is a DSQ from Jason Farmer right at the end of the race. He knew he was going to be disqualified going that little bit longer in the race. He knew it was game over since he didn't get into pit lane and sacrificed positions. That is not what we wanted to see from Farmer. Yes, you got the drive-through, but knowing that you're going to be intentionally disqualified, not how you want to end your round 3. Now, it does promote a whole lot of drivers up in towards top 15. However, wow, oh wow, not what you wanted to see there from a driver that generally will stick it out till the bitter end and continue to drive, even with his teammates, just to give him a bit of support. He's out of the race. He got disqualified. Went over the line 3 times. The sim said enough is enough. DQ, gone, out of it, square out the points, goodbye. Means that he is now behind Andre Serodio, Ulrich Diaga, and would be behind Issam Domingo as well. So a huge sacrifice of points there from a driver that's usually quite consistent. David Young and Lewis Knight continue the way through. Martha, Henry Platt, they would have all seen that and now go, okay, well, that's the news there. Bago pulls into the pit, serving his pit stop, jumping out of that top 5. Mahath Musa continues to go a lap further. 44 minutes remain, and let's see who has got that little bit more in the tank. Who is going to run it right down to the wire and really see what happens out there as Lewis Knight defends against David Young. The two of them brawling out for what currently sits 4th position in the AM class. David Young, a superb driver indeed, trying to keep the pressure on Lewis Knight. Looked around the outside, couldn't quite get that pass done in a straight line. The Ferrari just not having the legs to get past that Nissan GTR. Most certainly tried its luck to go and get that jump. However, has been thrown a little bit further adrift, having to think, okay, what's going to be the big game plan here? Bago Hrobler into the pit, still waits his time to get released from pit lane and to rejoin the race. It's a long pit stop for him, going and doing a full refuel and tires on the car to ensure that he's going to have the best time out and ensure he can try to pull himself a little bit closer to the pack. David Borski next into the pits. Will Mahath Musa see it? Yes, he does, but Mahath is also going to stretch his legs a little bit further. Henry Platt is the next one to try and eye it out in the BMW. He's going to go that little bit further. Now we're starting to see different ideas, different strategies. That 45-minute run, well, going and taking a big run out there. David Roth, Lucas Collin, Chris Wall doing exactly that. Lewis Knight and Antonio Gamble. I share the exact same sentiments of what I just witnessed with Jason Farmer, who deliberately allowed himself to get disqualified. I mean, something you don't actually see. Yes, the chips are down, but you want to fight till the very end. David Borski, Mon Spritzer, Issam Domingo, Andre Serodio, those are the drivers that have been through into the pits at the moment. Bago is the one to keep an eye out for coming out of pit lane, waiting to see where he comes out and how far into the mix will he be as Mon Spritzer's into the pits. And you can see a bit of a drag race as we saw Limburgs dive in, Raffers into the pits. there is Martin Spritzer in the BMW starting to exit pit lane. And this is going to be Daniel De Villiers, who's going to put yet another lap on the pack, going and gaining first place. But at what cost? At what cost to this? Remember, if you go over that 45-minute mark, I mean, it's going to be a rough one with a drive-through penalty. And Daniel De Villiers hoping that he has that extra minute to spare. Mahayath Musa following the exact same route up into second. Henry Platt charges his way through, sees Rafa and Ernest Lindbergs starting to roll now. He'll get ahead of both the fighting duo that will be fighting to the end. Platt still needs to get into the pits. And that is going to be the big one for him as he does sweep across. He sees these two now running line astern. Lindbergs and Sosa are the front pack that are needing to get out onto the circuit, that have done their final pit stop. And you can see Sosa, a quick move underneath, showing Lindbergs, hey, listen, buddy, remember season 17. Remember our fight. Well, we gone from Bathurst. We're now here at Indianapolis, home of the USA, well, out in the USA, home to the Indy 500, and it's a race down to the wire. 40 minutes to go. These two have no more pit stops. They are absolutely hammering it till the end. Ernest Lindbergs and Rafa will be pushing their way through. They got Chris Wall ahead of them, who will need to get into the pits. Same as David Roth, Henry Platt, Mahayath Musa, and Daniel De Villiers. But these two that have now taken time, that when they pulled into the pits, it was 24. They did not take tires. This is a fuel and go. They felt their tires have just enough life in them to push down to the wire. Lucas Collin into the pits. Ulrich Diaga into the pits as well. Mahayath Musa dives into pit lane. Now sees Henry Platt to go that little bit longer into the race. Daniel De Villiers still holds on to first place, 24 seconds up the road. David Roth leading out our AMs holds on to third place. He's trying to keep ahead of Chris Wall, Lewis Knight, and David Young. So he's got to consider his final pit stop very, very shortly. And where is it going to come in? These drivers are starting to keep a very, very close eye on the times. Keeping a very close eye on how far can they sink it through into that timer. That 45-minute max stint time that you're allowed to do before you get a drive-through penalty, and how far are they willing to go. And Chris Wall is now having two of the fastest in ERA. Lindbergs and Sosa come barreling up on that Aston Martin and will be looking to get past as quick as possible. If Chris Wall gets shoulders out and elbows out, he may be able to hold them back a little bit, keeping the fight behind him. But that means he's going to have both these drivers looking left and right, inside and out, and will be moving him offline. Bego Krobler trying to close up the gap to Mahayath Musa, who's done his pit stop. He is continuing to go that little bit further. Christoph Peterson as well in 8th position, trying to close up. Daniel De Villiers, Henry Platt, David Roth, all into the pits, getting themselves sorted. Chris Wall will need to consider that pit stop as well, as Rafa using all the road to come on. There's Chris Wall out of the way, not involved in the fight, leaving these two to brute force each other out for the remaining 37 minutes of the race. You can see how the racing has completely changed. Lindbergs dives to the inside. He is utilizing every which way to snap the toe on Rafa. He knows this is it. The final push, the final charge, and to look to take the victory here at Indianapolis for round 3 of the ERA Masters League. 32 points on the line. Rafa, who is second place in the championship, will be absolutely wanting those points. He wants it. He is mouth-watering it for it. For the likes of Lindbergs, who sits P7 in the group, trying to close up, is on 28 points. So a first place will bump him up quite a bit. But for Rafa, this is everything he needs to have, because Christoph Peterson sits way down the field, sits in 8th place, and is in a bit of a harder point. As David Roth into the pits, he's got Christoph Peterson trailing on behind. The fear the bonus drivers running line astern. Some great racing coming out there. Henry Platt and Chris Wall trying to come at one another yet again. No one getting the upper hand as Christoph Peterson sees the likes of Martin Spritzer getting ahead of him with a quick flash of lights, going and saying how's it to the rest of the field. He's got David Roth up the road from him. Now Christoph doing everything he can to close up that gap. Lucas Collib and Martin Spritzer will be keeping an eye on one another. For Martin, he's out in the pro class. He has now got Peterson, who is in the same class as him. Does he defend? Does he release? That is the question. Well, it looks like it's going to be a defend of note coming in for the BMW driver as he barrels his way down towards the hairpin, and it's going to be the BMW just ahead of the Mercedes. Martin Spritzer not losing out to Peterson at this stage of the game and forcing Peterson to really think outside the box. Begor Krobler trying to move forward. There is David Borschke trying to close up to Begor Krobler as it stands. Both drivers giving it their final little run, and right behind Mahayath Musa. He's been waiting, slowly but surely getting into that top 5. He's done his final stop, and now David Borschke is all that stands in front of him for that top 5. The Project Vapor driver's got a lot of work, because the Sabre Racing team do not take battles lying down. They do fight it out. They have been at the top. They have taken championships before. David has tasted the likes of a championship before. Let's see if he can make it happen again. Martin Spritzer loses out, held the outside line on the racing, and Christoph Peterson nice and neatly up on the inside, got the drive and was able to clear past. Martin Spritzer, not too much of an argument there, not diving to the right hand side to close off that centre line. Instead, kept it open, allowed Christoph Peterson to come through, and now firmly right up that rear wing, trying to go that little bit further, see what exactly happens. Back up with the last 33 minutes of this race, it is Rafa and Ernest who fight it out, and these two are hammer and tongs for the final stage of the race. This has gone from an enduro to a sprint for both drivers, both sitting on similar strategies and now needing to find that little bit of a run. And you can see Rafa sliding out a little bit more, maybe overdone it on the tires and having to try and cool them down behind Limburgs. However, he can just keep that momentum, keep that pressure on. At the moment, last lap, he was quicker than Limburgs, trying to see if that's going to help him out that little bit further, as we do see Henry Platt trying to get a little bit of a run, clearly carrying his way through, not having too much of a problem. And Chris Wall, David Roth behind him are losing out crucial time to one another. Christoph Peterson, Martin Spritzer running in tow. The two of them will be wanting to close up to this battle right here, and Chris Wall not wanting to lose out. Currently leading out the AM class. David Roth holds on to second. Lucas Collin holds on to third, and has not given up the fight just as yet. He is going to hold on till the bitter end. For Chris Wall, it's now or never to make it work. We heard him say he's a bit more comfortable with Indianapolis. Now David Roth's going to make him work for it. Dives up the inside, gets a beautiful pass. Chris Wall had no answer to the American, and that is Chris Wall down into second place in the AM class. Couldn't quite shut the door, and David Roth let himself in. Not a problem on the way through. More than happy on that one. And a stellar drive nonetheless coming in from David Roth and Chris Wall, both showing they've got the talent to be out here in the ERA Masters League. Limburgs currently holds on to the top of the Rafa in second place. Third is Daniel de Villiers. How's that for a bit of a combo in the top 3 of our Pro Honda, Nissan, Nissan. They couldn't quite get it done at Suzuka. But when it comes to Indianapolis, all three are going and putting both the Honda and Nissan brand up in the smiling places as anything American. The Ford Mustang of Beggar Krobler sits down in 4th place, a little bit off the mark from Daniel de Villiers. So trying to see that little bit more of a push, trying to see if that's going to help him out and see where exactly can they stand head above shoulders. 31 minutes to go here for round 3 of our racing. We do see the yellow flag out. Now, that is a graphical bug, and let me explain that why. Because why the yellow flags are staying out. Cast our eyes back a little bit, and we saw Jason Farmer come across the line getting a disqualification, which means he was teleported back to pits and stopped in pits. But the game still registers that he is slightly out of the box, and that keeps that yellow flag out that little bit longer and will be going and compromising a few drivers. Anyone that thinks, hang on, there might be an accident ahead of me, will see yellow flags ahead. However, that's not the case. It's a driver that got disqualified, and it now becomes a mental game of thinking, all right, yellow flag, put it to one side and try and keep going. The question is, look out for the smoke and dust. That is the critical part in this race, to see where exactly you're going to stay in for the mix. Henry Platt, more than happy, sitting in 7th place, trying to catch up to behind. Most of David Roth into 8th. Holds on to 1st in his class, much like Ernest Lindbergh's 1st in his class, as once again, the grid comes a little bit apart. Everyone trying to keep it all together, and now just trying to eye out the momentum. Going that little bit further, remember we spoke about the lactic acid coming in? Well, let's talk about something that we all get to experience. If you work in an office or you do lots of gaming, you're used to sitting on a chair for a very, very, very long time, or even sitting in traffic. Oh my, let's talk about that traffic. So you're used to sitting on the chair, which is putting all your weight onto your coccyx. You start to feel that pressure onto your coccyx, which is your tailbone, and your lower back is also starting to feel it. Now these drivers pushing and pulling on the steering and pushing on the accelerator, pushing on the brake, will also start to feel it in their back. You'll watch many of the drivers leaning forward, trying to stretch out their back, or trying to spread their shoulders up to try get some sort of movement in behind their spine. Depending on the type of seats that they've got, most sim racers either use their classic office chair because the steering is clamped to their table, so they will start to feel on their office chairs or gaming chairs. And for those that have sim rigs, many of the drivers tend to run either seats that are from cars, which have a recline function, just to get yourself a little bit more comfortable. But those wearing bucket seats, well, that's where the pain's going to come in, because there is no movement. You're stiff as a board. That seat's meant to be what we call a spine board for safety measures, but also becomes that little bit of pain you start to feel on your lower back. And you get an air gap between yourself and the seat. Now, if you're wondering about that air gap, just think about sitting in your seat and you got your shoulders rested beautifully, your bum firmly onto the bottom, but you do feel behind your lower back there's that open space. That's an air gap, and that is generally where the pain starts to come in, and where they try putting lumbar support to try and fill that air gap. Now, in the world of racing, where you're pushing onto it, you want that air gap to be a little bit more solid versus soft. You want to be able to push against it to try and keep you holding onto that brake. The problem that comes in is too soft, you got too much movement in the seat, too hard, and you land up taking strain on the body. These are factors when you're building your sim rig, and what the ERA masters, who we see out on circuit with their different sim rigs, have done and had to figure out over the course of many years of sim racing, and finding out a lot of pain, finding out the nuances. Not every sim rig is exactly alike. Each of them have little movements in the measurements to keep them going. Now, back onto the racing that's out here, because Dave Broschke and Mahyth Musa still keeping within good time. Mahyth Musa down to the 35s, and David Broschke sits in the high 36s at the moment. He's starting to feel that wear and tear, starting to feel that strain. Mahyth Musa, who's getting quicker and quicker, has become more comfortable in his rig. David Broschke, however, starting to look in the mirror, starting to lose focus, and will be considering his options. What needs to be done to keep ahead of this BMW as he's sinking it later into corners? It tells me he is starting to feel that uncomfortable strain on his back and a little bit in the wrists as well. That is costing him a little bit of time. That brain is cast a little bit back. Isam Domingo into the pits. Andres Rodeo into the pits. And Jason Farmer, unfortunately, a disqualification. Now, we did see the likes of Isam Domingo having a tough time out there. A drive through, a stop go 30-second, or coming back at him. And he is now just trying to keep an eye on Mahyth Musa and David Broschke as they fight it out between one another. Both drivers not giving up at this stage of the game, and see what they can do. Mahyth still stretching open that gap from Broschke, trying to see if he can really go and dial it in. Can he get that pass done? However, what a drive coming in from David Broschke for the Cyber Racing team. He is just constantly soaking that pressure up, not worrying about it too much, and looking forward to the future. Ernest Limburgs and Rafa, they've opened up to about 2.7 seconds between one another. Daniel De Villiers trying to close up that gap to the likes of Rafa, knowing that a top two is there in chance if something goes awry. Both of Mahyth Musa and Broschke run out wide. They get close to the wall, trying to straighten out the corner as much as possible. See if it works out for them. Can they make it run that little bit further into the race? And how far are they willing to go? So many little nuances creeping in, and drivers starting to feel the pressure of going that little bit further into the race. And these two, who continue to fight it out for 23 minutes left of the race, are the closest fighting duo on track. Now, let's also cast our eyes a little bit further back to Christoph Peterson, leading out the Pro Championship. He's in 9th position as it stands. This is a bit of a rough stint for him, as he's losing out some critical times and not having the easiest of runs out on the circuit at the moment. And it will be scratching his head based on the information right now for round 3. This has compromised him. They've got 7 rounds to play with here in the ERA Masters League, and this is a throwaway completely for him unless he can close up the distance between the drivers, unless he can become a viable threat. He has to clear Henry Platt, who's well up the road. And Peterson is 10 seconds off David Roth, and then he has to catch up a further run of nearly 2 seconds to catch up to Henry Platt, who holds on to that 7th position, to be able to rectify, to gain those points and see how it's going to work out. Lucas Collin going and having a good fight out there. Lewis Knight ahead of him, but here comes our leaders. Limburgs got caught up in that train, lost a bit of time. Collin comes back across his nose to try and take the racing line. Limburgs had to take a bit of an evasive maneuver there, and that has now brought Rafa that little bit closer. Has gone to battle it in a little bit closer, and at the same time for Lucas Collin, holding back the two leaders, has brought David Young into the fight. So Rafa swings around the outside, trying to get past. Couldn't quite get it done. He is getting slowed up. He's losing time to Limburgs. But for the likes of Colib in the 47, he has got David Young that is hunting him down. So he does not want to come off the throttle. He wants to be well enough aware that he keeps his foot in. David Young is in the toe of Rafa, who tries to go and slingshot pass down the inside. He's going to just get it done. And it's going to open the door for the likes of David Young. The two of them had a bit of a go. David Young had to hammer on the anchors, try to get the pass down the inside. Couldn't quite get it sorted out. And now is in a fight for his life. Lucas Colib, who holds on to 4th in the AM class, now fights out against Young, who dives down the inside line. Tried his luck. Couldn't get that pass right to the very end. And they are going to push harder and harder, seeing where exactly it's going to come out for them. Colib on the left-hand side will be trying to squeeze down David Young, managing just to eke it out, but only just, as they go and fight their way through. David Young is not out of this fight, and he is going to utilize every opportunity to get it done and dusted. Rafa has lost out a lot of time to Limburgs when he was caught behind Colib with nowhere to go. The two of them had a bright brawl between them. Mahath Musa and David Broschke having a go. David Roth and Henry Platt onto one another. Now we start to get these silos of battles towards the end. We're starting to see the endurance of the drivers. In a 2-hour race, you might think it's easy until you try it out. And well, does it start to become rather interesting indeed. Lewis Knight loses out to Ernest Limburgs as he allows that pass to happen. Rafa's going to be the next one, try and close up that distance. Nearly 2 and a bit seconds ahead as they fight their way through. David Roth, who fights out as the leader of the Amp class, has got Henry Platt, who is a little bit further down, 7th of the Pro class. For David Roth, this is bragging rights. If you go just get past Henry Platt, there's no need to race him, but he's just hoping to keep in that toe, get that pull along that little bit further, see if he can try and open a little bit more to Chris Wall at this stage of the game, as we do see Henry Platt utilizing all the road, trying to straight line the corners. Mahath Musa looks to the inside of David Broschke, gets the dive down into turn 1, sunk it in a little bit deep there, but got the pass, hooked in. David trying to fight back with that McLaren, needs to find grip underneath him, as Mahath Musa has been waiting, plotting out those lines, trying to see where the kink in the armor is. Finally pulled the trigger, got past, and now has to deal with David Broschke in that McLaren, who is right up his gearbox, trying to see where exactly can he get that drive, where can he move forward. And ultimately, this is going to be a race of note, and we're starting to see those silos, those battles coming out. Henry Platt trying to stay alive at the moment with the Moscow Motorsport team has got David Roth. Oh, a little bit of contact between the two. They have stopped, but they're on the racing line. That is the racing line. They got to get going. They got to get going really quickly, as David Roth does get the jump on Henry Platt. Henry's going to get past. Ooh, a little bit close to one another. And I think Henry just giving a little bit of a love tap there, saying, hey, I felt that one. Let's not have it again. Roth, with the tip of the hat, I give him his due. He didn't put his foot down and disappear into the distance. He decided to give that position back to Henry Platt and left them to duke it out that little bit further. Mahath Musa and David Broschke started to open up the gap on one another. Rafa clearing past Lewis Knight, going and having a good run on his way through. Lucas Colib and David Young in the same shot are still over the top of one another, trying to really dig deep. Limburg, Sosa, De Villiers hold on to the top 3 for our Pro class, and overall, Roth, Wall, and Knight hold on to the top 3 for our AM class at the moment. No one having the upper edge on one another. Every opportunity needs to be taken and moving forward for the last 16 and a half minutes in this race. David Roth of the Fear of the Bones is right up the gearbox of Henry Platt, trying to see where exactly can he get that pass. And whoa, once again, late dive, nearly into the back of Henry Platt, and nearly having PTSD coming back for Henry, who suddenly saw Honda close up at a rate of knots come flying past him. That is a lot quicker than Tom Cruise in Top Gun, going and barreling on the rest of the jets. And David Roth had to bail out to avoid any contact with Platt. That lost him a bit of time, but has now instantly got back into it. The captain of this pirate ship is not done with the Moscow Motorsport BMW, who Henry Platt comes from racing a Z3 in the Moscow Motorsport, a sim racer gone real racing, and getting to learn all the costs that go with it, battling out against David Roth, who wants to be king of the pirates, king of the seas, and will be the most feared out there with the black beard colors, and is absolutely trying to close up at a rate of knots. That Honda is a lot quicker on a low fuel tank compared to the BMW, and David Roth knows it. He just needs to make it happen. He needs to get that pass. And the more and more these two argue, well, in the background, there's a Fear of the Bones. The Red Baron himself, Christoph Peterson, slowly but surely eyeing out his chances to move forward and to put his Jolly Roger, that flag, further up the field. If both Platt and Roth run into a mistake, well, expect to see a Merc moving 2 places up. And now for Henry Platt, he's going absolutely going defensive as ever to try and stay alive between the two of them. Rafa falling way back of Limburgs as we do see Roth down the inside. Platt opens up the corner, allows Roth to come through, looks for the undercut on the Honda, but it's going to be the twin turbo Honda to carry the momentum. The straight 6 turbocharge could not get the run on the twin turbo 4-cylinder of David Roth's Honda NSX. And for a lot of the newer generation, this is actually the second of the NSX brand that is out there. Henry Platt in the M4 going and showing what it can do under braking. Really got into the back of Roth, unfortunately compromised his time. And here comes Christoph Peterson like a shark in the water, slowly but surely just eyeing out the prey and seeing where exactly can he make this work out. Remember, it's critical for him to get ahead of Platt. He doesn't care about Roth. He wants to get his plan done by getting ahead of Platt and saving just a couple of points to keep him in for the championship. Rafa losing track of Limburgs well into the distance. Rafa getting a bit of a slow drive, has likes of Lewis Knight on the back of him and actually gaining a little bit of time. Daniel de Villiers holds it to third, but we did see Lucas Collin and David Young in that shot. Both of them fighting out for position. Now they fight for 13th and 14th position, but these two have been fighting it out against one another for well over 20 minutes now. And David Young has looked at the back of Collin's BMW, seeing those lights, seeing that frustration, starting to get that tunnel vision and see where on earth can he get past this BMW. The Ferrari 296 is rather nimble through the corners, but just not having that top end to go and carry the momentum through. And that is starting to become a real big effect as he tries to get a good run out of the corner. They're side by side, they go. Colin leaning on him, trying to force him to the racing light, late on the brakes. Who's going to be first in as they both go in through the left-hander? Who's into the right? It's going to be a little bit of a squeeze, but David Young's able to get that pass done. Lucas Collin had to lift. Otherwise, he would have been straight into the dirt and costing him a bit of time. Green flag still a wave for our drivers. 11 minutes and 50 seconds to go It has been a long race. An hour and 48 minutes past for these drivers. What usually gets into a long stint for drivers in an endurance race, they are now feeling it out there and try to push a little bit more at a warm Indianapolis. 30 degrees track to temperature was 34 when we started. We dropped 4 degrees. We're now down to 24 degrees Celsius air temperature. That is also going to affect how these cars handle that little bit more, especially with the aero that comes into play. And everyone trying to see what works out for them. How far can they carry the momentum? How far are they willing to go in this race without getting caught off guard? Everyone trying to think of how to upstage their competition and do it effectively. It takes that one moment to go and land out and run into a world of trouble. That being said, this is in for a huge run, and seeing where exactly can they get the momentum as they head down into the last 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Folks, this is a closing gap between drivers, but this is also a crucial moment. The moment you hear 10 minutes left, your brain switches into autopilot mode. You now start to consider what you need to do to stay in for the fight. What do you need to do to see it through to the end? And sometimes you take that pressure off the right foot and you start to go and drift. You start thinking about that little bit of uncomfortable you had in your lower back. Maybe the pedal is actually sitting a bit skewed. You start to lose that little bit of focus. And this is what separates the ERA Masters from our general racing. The Masters have perfected how to go lap after lap after lap after lap, working with what they know and to ensure that they finally tune to go in it. Remember, this race, this series, the ERA Masters, was an invitational to both Server 1 and Server 2 to come racing, taking the best out of the present and past champions and get to slug it out across 7 rounds for a physical trophy from ERA and the bragging rights to call himself the ERA Masters champion for 2026. The only time you're going to get that opportunity again, well, is going to be next year, 2027. So it's all about making the impact now. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up in a world of hurt a little bit later. Our ERA Masters League showing some of the best from around the world going and slugging it out. And at this stage of the game, are just cycling through the laps, trying to get this race done. It has been a long one, 2 hours of racing to be completed. They so far on lap 68 here at Indianapolis and have really been pushing on a 3.9 kilometer circuit. I mean, this has been a wild race nonetheless for each and every one of our competitors. And 68 laps completed times 3.9, and I'm bad at maths, so I'm using a calculator. It's 265.2 kilometers completed by our leaders. You heard me right, 265 kilometers in the seat, and trying to see if they can get it through to the end without losing time, without losing that little bit of a push. With 15 cars remaining on circuit, they are circulating. This has been a very long race for a lot of competitors that haven't had much to fight around with them at this stage of the game due to the holidays that have come by. And if it's holidays all over around the world, happy holidays from ERA, and we hope that you have a pleasant one. We're looking forward to see you guys back onto the circuit, having fun with us. And also, reminder that signups for Season 18 of the ERA Sunday Championship has opened up. Join onto our Discord, follow the prompts, and get driving with us here at ERA. Not only do we have our Sunday Championship, we've got some fun races in between during the course of the week, and teaching lessons as well, how to improve, how to get better, and where to have a bit of fun. Martin Spritzer and Lewis Knight are the two closest competitors at the moment. Spritzer trying to guard the line down the inside. Lewis Knight going to go around the outside with this a GTR. Not quite as comfortable as Martin on the brace. You could see him trying his best to go that little bit later. However, it did not work out. Martin a little bit more put together in that mix. Lewis Knight, who currently runs third in class, fights against Martin Spritzer to see if he can get an overall position, get to 11th. But at the same time, there's a 6-second gap between himself and Chris Wall, who holds second in class. For Lewis Knight, he does not want to compromise his drive here. He does not want to lose out in the final 5 minutes and 50 seconds of this race to go hunting down for a spot that can cost him a podium here at Indianapolis. A very, very difficult circuit that requires lots and lots of focus. 14 corners. Apologies. And to point out, is one of the oldest circuits still in active racing. 116 years ago, the circuit was open to competitors. 117 years ago, Indianapolis put a shovel in the sand and said, we are building one of the best tracks in the world, being the Indianapolis Oval, and later becoming the road course circuit. Lewis Knight trying to go once again around the outside. Martin Spritzer forcing him to really think about the options here. Try to keep that bit of momentum going and seeing how far they can go that little bit further into the race. Now, fastest lap record on our Grand Prix setup, which at current was open in 2014 and has been going till now. It was set by Joseph Newgarden in the Dallara DW12 2017 IndyCar on the road course. But prior to that, an earlier one was a modified course for motorcycles, and there was Marc Marquez on the Honda in MotoGP in 2015 was able to get that fastest lap. So this circuit, this version we're racing on, is from 2014 and has constantly kept it going and become a staple in Indianapolis as a great run as they come across the line. And one thing they have done, as we do see Lewis Knight once again look for the inside line, and it's going to be a good one. Martin Spritzer sunk it in a little bit deep into the corner, and it wasn't an easy pass. Lewis Knight now has David Young closed up onto him. These drivers will see a fully scanned, and you can see that little strip in front. That is the Brickyard. That is the original bricks from the start of Indianapolis, going and singling the start-finish line. The drivers want to be the first ones across there, but take a look. Lewis Knight hunting down every opportunity. Peterson loses out to Roth, but gets ahead of Chris Wall, and now continuing his way through. So great running there, but Lewis Knight has got to be careful, because the more he fights against Spritzer, who is not for class position, he's got David Young in that Ferrari that has closed up at a rate of knots. He is absolutely trying everything he can to fight his way through. No one able to back out of the run just as yet. And I do want to point out one driver that managed to get on the phone while driving, and you never text and drive. Daniel De Villiers, out in third place, is sending a bit of a text to everyone in the stands, and he's going to be really careful about that one, as Bagel Krobler is 4 seconds behind him. And we keep an eye. Spritzer, Lewis Knight, David Young are now all within a shot of one another. Spritzer, who is a pro-class driver, holds on to 11th overall, hasn't got too much concern for what's behind him. However, Lewis Knight is chomping at the bit. He is biting. He is chewing. He is angry to get past Martin Spritzer, knowing David Young is closing up under brake here. It looks like Young has got a lot more life in those tires and is more than happy to brake that little bit later to close the distance up to Lewis Knight, and Martin Spritzer is visibly shown into T1 as Lewis Knight falling a little bit off the wicket here. David Young trying to come back at it. Martin Spritzer, who is just having a tough time. He's got that understeer. You can see how the BMW is washing out on corner exits, feeling that he's in it for a world of hurt. And Young with a great acceleration down the inside. Call him Hot Wheels accelerators. He's into the accelerator dome. He is absolutely going and pushing forward. And for Team Teku, that is going to be the one for him. Well, Delta One Racing, if you do know the accelerator efforts, well done. You were born in a time where they thought the accelerators were done, dusted, didn't even get an opportunity to carry on and finish the story. Lewis Knight and David Young fight out between one another for the last of third place. For David Young, this is crucial. 30 seconds to go. Third place on the cards. Lewis Knight trying to now go on the attack. The more he attacks, the more he loses out. We just heard our leader is on the final lap. Limburg, 73 laps in. Next time by makes it 74 and will be leading out in towards a great finish line here in round 3. But the battle for the last of the podium spot in the AM class sits to this. Lewis Knight trying to go and follow Martin Spritzer. Looks to go around the outside yet again. Baited to the outside. That hasn't worked for the last couple of laps. And David Young held his line. He did not get off that racing line. He kept the push. He's keeping on going. Lewis Knight has been fed that same story over and over and over. And now it is costing him. David Young right into the back. Trying to see for his opportunity. Looked to try and close up under braking. Lost out through the hairpin. And now trying out his absolute darndest luck to go that little bit more. But our leader, Limburg's, going and having a great run. Powers away from Sosa. Enters onto the oval for the second last time. He says farewell to that section as he carves his way through. Looking to make it a first place here in round 3. It hasn't been the best of starts to his championship, but this time round, Ernest Limburgs takes the victory here at Indianapolis and crosses the brickyard in first for pro and first overall. Rafa Sosa has fought it down to the wire. Will take second place in the pro field with the South African Daniel de Villiers hanging off for third place ahead of Bego Krumler and Mahayath Musa. David Broschke and Henry Platt will follow suit as well. David Roth will look to take the victory in 8th place overall and first in class, extending his gap into the championship. Christoph Peterson, a nightmare race for him, finishes 9th. Chris Wall happy with that second place. Martin Spritzer beats out Lewis Knight down to the wire, and Lewis Knight holds on for third place in the AM with David Young, who threw everything at him, just couldn't get that pass done. Lucas Collop at 14th. 15th goes to Ulrich Dialga and Andre Sorodio rounding out the pack. What a drive had by all. What a drive had by our competitors. And our ERA Masters League has now gone and changed the championship. Yet again, the only one that has come away unscathed has been David Roth in the AM category, and he's going to be more than happy with that one to try and hold a solid run at the moment. Wow, oh wow. As we take a look back at Indianapolis and say thank you very much to it. What an incredible race, and our drivers really having to dig deep there. We're going to take a look back to what has happened with some highlights of the race here at Indianapolis, and after a stellar race everyone giving it their all, everyone pushing that extra little bit, but it was only down towards the top that could get it done and dusted here in Indianapolis. A couple of people caught out by our stint limits, and that unfortunately has piled them down through the order. One of them being likes of Christoph Peterson, who was so looking forward to having a good run here. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out in his favor. So a good shot of our cars making their way through, of our ERA Masters. What a stellar run indeed, and what a stellar run had by all our competitors as we relive some of the magic off the start and how close the racing was. Now, talking to some of the drivers that are coming through, we got one of them, first place overall, and first place in the Pro, we've got lying around as well. So we've got a number of drivers we're going to be pulling up through here. Let's start off with third place in the AM division, Lewis Knight. Let's come and have a chat to us before we move on a little bit further up. Lewis, welcome to the commentary box. And what a race to the end. David Young had your number, but you weren't answering.
He had my number and Spitzer was in my way.
A bit of a close race out there. Now, first of all, Indianapolis, not an easy circuit. Knowing that you got 2 hours to race around this track, what was the preparation like to be able to handle the pressure out on circuit? And how was the race for you to try and hold on to that third place, that critical points that you need?
The race felt really good, actually. A lot of the prep was just making sure that the car felt nice. So I knew what it was going to do, knew when the tyres were going to go slightly, even though they seemed to go a lot earlier. And then it was just a lot of how much fuel I needed. And then that ending part was just, well, I've got to hold up David all I can.
Well, we talk about the elbows out racing. I think your elbows are successfully bruised. How was that final lap for you, knowing it's now or never, third place on the cards, and David Young is hunting you down for that third place?
Sketchy. Very, very sketchy. There was a lot of panic trying to make sure that David stayed behind me and that I didn't accidentally hit Spitzer up the rear, because I think his tyres were gone, like, completely. So it was a lot of just hoping I didn't hit him.
Trying to late brake and trying to get it done. Now, you came P10 into this round. How are you feeling heading into the next one, considering we're away from GT3s again? We're now going into BMW M2s. Not enough power, plenty of momentum to keep, and very, very heavy cars to try and cycle your way around a difficult circuit.
I quite like the M2s, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be quite a bit of fun, actually.
Absolutely wonderful to hear. Well, before I let you go to enjoy and cool down after your 2-hour race, anything you would like to say to all our partners here at ERA and to the drivers out on the circuit, most importantly, anything you want to say to our petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands that were standing, holding their breath, and I saw a couple of the drivers become Oompa Loompas going blue in the face out there.
Obviously to the guys at ERA, thank you for organising this. It's very competitive across the field, so it is a lot of fun to be pinned against guys who are either very faster than you get to learn from them, or, you know, you get to fight with those at your pace. The guys that sat and watched it, you know, I hope you enjoy it as much as we do, as always. And yeah.
And one person with a big smile is the good smile, Lewis Knight. Congratulations once again on that third place, and well held down till the very end. Now, I'm going to leave you to try and pry your fingers off the steering wheel after that one, because that must have been manic.
Yeah.
You could hear out of breath and how much that race meant to him to really move his way up. Well, second place in the AM field, we got Chris Wall, who had a bit of fun out there in the Asimon. Chris, welcome to the commentary box. Second place, Guest sleeves were off tonight. How are you feeling after that drive?
The sleeves were very much on, but given the current temperature within my underwear, I wish they were off. The race was a lot of fun. Not my best track, not a track I'd done a lot of practice for, so expectations were low, especially after quali. Little bits of contact throughout the race, so decided at the very end, the last stint, I'd roll the dice, not take tyres and see what it did, and fortunately I think a few of the other guys around me did the same, so it didn't really, that pace difference at the end was sort of nullified, other than David, who just ran away with it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good fun. Those 2 hours flew by, and I'm kind of glad that it kept dry throughout the race as well, because I wasn't prepared for any wet weather.
With that being said, the stint timer becoming one to keep an eye out for. Did you feel that any point that you wanted to take the risk and run it down to the wire, or were you always, let's give it a little bit of a safety buffer?
No, I very much kept a safety buffer in the first stint, and then when we there was sort of like a 10-minute window for the second stint where we could pit, given those that were on that strategy. So I just pitted a lap after Lucas and a few of the others did, just to make it safe. And yeah, just took the safe option really, other than not taking tyres. I just thought I'd take a bit of a risk. Normally I play the safe cards, consolidate what I've got, but I figured I had a chance to get at least second step on the podium with a bit of a gamble, and that's what I opted for. So I'm kind of glad I did now, although it was tough work. I had basically 2 punches on my left tyres, so that last 30 minutes was hard work.
Well, definitely a great one indeed, and managing to capture that second place in class. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations with the Logistical Nightmare Racing team, anything you would like to say to our partners here at ERA, to the drivers you shared the track with tonight in the ERA Masters League, and most importantly, the petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands right around the field, as we just saw one of the contacts where it was Martin Spritzen and yourself landing up into the right-hander. The BMW versus Aston Martin looked like your car came off better than Martin's car. But anything you would like to say to those in the virtual grandstand that cheered you on tonight?
I guess just to thank you for everyone that tunes in, whoever you support. The views are welcome. Make sure you subscribe as well. Share the channel around. We're aiming for as many subscribers and eyes on this as possible. So get the word out there, people, if you're watching and you enjoy what we do. The staff and everyone at ERA that puts this stuff on, their own time. They've all got jobs, families, lives, and they put their own time into this. So endless thanks to those guys that do that, and it just enables us weirdos to sit in our fake little simulators at night and go racing. We enjoy it a lot, so we thank you all, and you, Stephen, for giving it the exposure that you do.
It was absolutely an honor to be here and to see some of the best racing out, and I can tell you that we're on the road to 500 subscribers. We had 387. Maybe after tonight we're going to get a little bit more. And we might see Chris taking his sleeves off yet again for the BMWs. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And once again, congratulations on that second place.
Thank you. Bye.
Chris Wall taking second in the AM class, but there can only be one winner. And it's one driver who managed to charge his way to the front at one stage of the game. Didn't look like he was going to get there. But David Roth, congratulations on your victory here tonight at Indianapolis. How are you feeling crossing the brickyard in first in your class in a car that people don't expect to be at the front?
Thank you, Stephen. It feels good. That was really hard fought. 2 hours is no joke. I mean, I have my fan running full blast, and I'm just covered right now.
Now, this is a circuit that you're quite familiar with. How was it out at the start of the race? How crucial was it to go and move up in the early stages of the race, or was it a lot of fuel management at the start, considering the 45-minute stint timer?
I wasn't really fuel managing or saving at all. For the first stint, I was just kind of all out. I lost a couple positions just because of being stuck on the outside and traffic, and it was really hard fought getting those positions back, trying to catch Domingo. I really lucked out because that would have been one hell of a fight. I don't know if you saw those during that first stint, but we were hammer and tong for lap after lap after lap.
We caught it. Believe it me on that one. We caught all of it as we see a shot of you and Chris Wall having a go at one another, trying to slice your way through on the highlights. But that being said, after 2 hours of racing, how's the body feeling? Having to slug it out and see what exactly is going on. And how's the shoulders, the wrists, the arms, the legs, everything now that you slugged it around Indianapolis?
my wrists are pretty shot. My left knee from braking super heavy. That's pretty well sore, but I feel good. You know, I might take a nap. Still relatively early over here in the States, but I'm exhausted. That's a lot. 2 hours, you know, at 100% it's a lot to do. It's not a real car. Obviously, it's a simulator, but it's still a lot of work.
And you had to win at Indy. I mean, you can't be a real American without winning at Indy, especially 116 years old, and in August will be having its birthday, making it 117 for the when drivers were there, but it first broke ground 117 years ago. So I'm sure it was have to get the win here because Indy is just one of those prestigious tracks on our calendar.
Oh yeah, and we share a birthday actually. The inaugural race at Indianapolis was on my birthday.
Well, absolutely wonderful to hear. Before I let you go and do what every driver needs to do to kiss the bricks out on Indy, to go and sign their life and say well done to them. Anything you would like to say to all our partners here at ERA, to all the drivers in the ERA Masters, and most importantly, our masterclass ERA petrol heads that line the grandstands here at Indianapolis.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Fangler for hosting this community and making sure it's managed properly. Thank you to all the admin and staff that make all these races possible. Thank you to our sponsors and the people who donate that keep these servers up. And also thank you to you, Steven, for making these broadcasts very worth watching. I have no question that we'll get 500 subscribers by the end of this Masters League.
Well, that is the goal. That is the game. And with your type of racing, well, I think we're going to get there. David Roth, thank you so much for joining us. And congratulations on your podium in the AM class. What a stellar run. And the milk goes to David Roth on that one. But that being said, we've got a bit of a chat to our pro class. And third place, you didn't quite expect to be there, is the PWSR colors in the Pennzoil tribute car, the Nissan GTR himself, the hitman, Daniel de Villiers. Daniel, welcome to the commentary box. Third place. How are you feeling after that one?
Good evening, Stephen. I feel excellent. And I feel excellent. I'm happy with this podium.
Now, coming off the back, Suzuka not working out for you. You're P11 in the points, a third place here tonight. Do you feel that the momentum is behind you, the wind is behind your sails, and able to go for the top 5 in the championship? We got just a couple of rounds left, but the race seems to be fierce at the front.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. Yeah, Suzuka was not my best. I should have just stick it out and finish it to get a couple of points, but yeah, that's me being dumb. But yeah, the momentum is there. I'm happy with the progress that I have and that I've made, consistent and everything and so on. But I'm happy.
And first of the South Africans across the line, I'm sure that's a little bit of a pride sitting there going, got you guys. Now we're going to have a bit of a chat and who owes who a Sterry Stumpy.
Yeah, it was kind of funny how the top 3 oaks at the qualifying was not South Africans, and then 4, 5, and 6 were South Africans. So the Europeans were under pressure a lot from the South Africans, definitely.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Daniel, before I let you go to enjoy the celebration with the PWSR team, what do you want to say to the ERA Masters grid that fought out with you? We saw the earlier fights you were involved in, to our partners here at ERA, keeping things moving, and most importantly, the petrol heads out in the grandstands that's around the world come cheering for their favorite cars, drivers, and teams.
And I just want to say congrats to all the category winners, Ernest and David Roth. It was David, right? Roth, yeah. Congrats on their wins and the podium finishes. Well done. And yeah, to everyone who finished the race with dignity though. And yeah, those that couldn't finish the race, yeah, keep on fighting. Believe me, it's worth it. And yeah, thank you, Stephen, for you and the organizers, Christian, everyone. Chris Peterson, everyone. Yeah, thanks for the invite here. And yeah, see you on the next.
Looking forward to seeing you on the next. Daniel De Villiers of PWSR taking a great run into third place for the Pro Division. But that being said, there can only be one captain at the helm, and there can only be one captain that can be feared in the seas, and that goes to Ernest Limburgs taking the victory here at Indianapolis. Ernest, how are you feeling after that one? You got the jump on the line on Roth, and you absolutely kept it pinned till the very end.
Fear the bones for the win! Yeah, baby! Let's go! Easy W. Okay, not that easy, but still a W. Let's go. Ooh, what a race. What a race, what a race. That was good.
Gotta raise the flag and hold that Jolly Roger high. Now, take us through. I mean, this is a very long run for a solo driver. 2 hours is already a hard push. Now, 2 hours around Indianapolis, well, that's even harder. How was it out there from your experience, and also you having to put up a solid fight with Rafa for a good long while both of you seem to be on the same strategy as well?
Yeah, I mean, man, I've done longer races solo, but yeah, after I crossed the line, I could barely stand, to be honest. Like, my legs were out. But yeah, it was a really tight fight. I actually went for a no tire change on the first pit stop. I think Souza still changed tires, but for the last pit stop, we went in at the same time and came out pretty much right there, right next to each other. So I wasn't expecting that. I thought he was gonna go for a no tire change on the last pit stop, but he went for the tire changes on all of his pit stops, and I mean, it almost worked out for him, because yeah, he was a lot faster on that second stint. But I just managed to keep my tires up, managed to keep my consistency up, didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. Yeah, that was really close till the end, I'd say.
Well, it was a great race. And how did you feel having a stint timer to hold you back instead of, well, you have to do one mandatory pit stop? Now you've got a certain amount of time you need to be in the car before you need to reset the counter. We saw it catch a few people. Was it your concern as well that, hey, listen, I might be running out of time. The clock is running out on me?
No, not really. Like, I knew the stint timer beforehand, so I could already plan out my strategy. And I went for the 45, 30, 45 route, and yeah, I mean, it worked out for me. Didn't really feel like I was constrained a whole lot. It made it a bit easier to plan out the tires, I'd say, because if it was freewheel, then it would probably be 1 hour, change tires 1 hour. But yeah, to me, it didn't really do anything that much. It was just a bit easier.
Well, it was an absolutely great drive. You were 7th coming into this championship. You're now moving up in the points and you're raising that flag high. Anything you want to say to your fellow drivers out on track, your teammates that now have to be keeping a very close eye on your flag, your Jolly Roger standing above all, and to our partners here at ERA, and most importantly, the crew out in the virtual grandstands. Without them, there's no way we're going to be fighting for all the loot and seeing who stands above all as the ERA Masters League champion.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to all the organizers who organized this, because this is a really fun event. Honestly, like it's not obviously it's I'd say actually it's pretty much as good as the regular Sunday League Championships. This is really fun. Like the different car classes that we get to drive is really enjoyable to see who is the overall champion. I want to thank you, Steven, for commentating 2 hours solo. Damn, that's a lot. Thank you to you too. That must have been exhausting as well. Thanks to all the drivers who showed up on on Easter weekend. And I just want to say to Peterson that shit happens. Keep your head up. I know you'll be back in the next race stronger than ever. I'll see you on track. See you.
A bit of a vice versa being said from yourself, what he said to you at Suzuka, which is pretty interesting to find out. But Limburgs, congratulations once again. You get the milk, you get to move up on Brickyard, and you're not a P3. Well done on your victory here tonight.
Thank you, Steve.
And the Limburgs taking the victory in pro and overall. What a night it has been, folks. Absolutely tight racing all the way through. And we can't wait to see what happens next time out, though, on the 26th of April at 1900 BST. So take note, 26th of April, 1900 BST. We will be heading over to Donington Park for round 4 of the ERA Masters League 2026, where our drivers will be put in BMW M2s. They'll have 2 30-minute races with no stops and a reverse grid in Heat 2 with a rain probability of 55 to 70%. That may change the entire ball game. And for our BMW lovers, well, you get to see one of the most interesting little cars here in ACC that is going to really push drivers to their limit. And that reverse grid, I do think, will be an Achilles heel for most of our top tier drivers. Make sure you head over to ERA, and down in the description, we do have our sign-ups for our Season 18 starting soon. And you can come and join us with some incredible racing. Also, join our Discord. There is so much happening. Thursday night, we got a sprint race. That's all for a bit of fun. Sunday, 12th of April, we got Indianapolis Round 1, Season 18. There's still room to join with our 2 servers and multiple classes to fight it out towards the top. There is so much going on, including our Drive for Dean, 27th of April. Mark it down. The Drive for Dean charity endurance race will be back and better, looking to break world records yet again. So join up out on SimGrid for that one. It's going to be an incredible one. It's going to be a great one, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Folks, it has been an honor to be on the microphone here tonight for the ERA Masters League, and I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone out in the virtual grandstands, to all the drivers out in the race this evening. To those that missed it, a happy holidays. It's good to have you guys here, and honestly, it's been a great one. Now we look forward to the next, and make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all our action, including our pitcast, where we get to chat to the drivers, talk about the championships, and figure out what comes next here at ERA. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much to Tim on our Marshall stands. Jim, who was on cameras. We switched them around to see what they could do, and let us know who was better. Was it Tim or Jim that was better on cameras? But for myself, Stephen Koenig, and the entire ERA team, we'd like to say happy holidays, and like always, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.